Chapter 86. Little girl, I didn't expect you to be so pretty. Wang Kai's face darkened as he sneered, his feet floating in the air as he flipped his hand and summoned the king, binding rope towards him, staring at her with a smile. She looked to be about 14 or 15 years old. She had an exquisite and petite figure. Her chest was slightly perked up like a budding flower. She wore a red dress that exposed her two snow-white and delicate calves. It was extremely dazzling. Although her beautiful face seemed to be a little immature, she was definitely a beauty in the making. She was quite lovable. Of course, I'm the most beautiful woman in the demon continent. Kong Rose snorted proudly. I gave you some color, and you started a dye shop. Wang Kai grinned, and with a tap of his foot, his figure instantly disappeared. Shifting position. Demon aura. Kong Rose's face was full of disdain. When she saw Wang Kai disappear, she did not panic. Instead, she waved her small hands and shot out streaks of cyan battle chi, which was mixed with a huge amount of demon aura. In the blink of an eye, the battle chi had filled the entire space around her. Swish! Wang Kai was shocked when he saw this. He quickly stopped and retreated. After a few flashes, he appeared dozens of meters away. He looked at the cyan battle chi with a dignified expression. He squinted and said in a low voice, "Ninth level demon grandmaster. I didn't expect you to break through so quickly in just a few days. You little bastard, you are not bad. You were only in the martial general realm. Since you could tear the Grandmaster Celestial Artifact Cosmos Bag into pieces, you must be at least in the 6th level martial Grandmaster realm. But compared to me, you are still far behind." Kong Rose snorted proudly. Chinquin bag? Upon hearing this, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and his eyes flickered. He glanced at the black sack in her hand. Although he was only a rank 2 martial grandmaster, he could rely on his blood force to fight against a rank 6 martial grandmaster. It seemed that she did not know his true realm. He could not help but put his hands behind his back and said with a smile, "Bin Shao is a peerless genius and has the power to shake the world. You must be dreaming if you want to trap Bin Shao with a mere sack." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. *T. This young lady wants to see if you're really that powerful. Take this. Kong Ro coldly snorted in disdain. Her jade-like hand slapped at the diffusing cyan air current. Immediately, a gust of wind rose and spread in all directions like smoke. It was indeed demonic aura. Wang Kai's expression changed slightly. He quickly moved his feet and used his body displacement martial skill, disappearing and disappearing continuously. With her rank 9 demon grandmaster realm, the demonic aura she emitted could definitely make him faint on the spot. You really are just bragging. You have the power to shake the world, and you don't even blush. How shameful. Kong Ro's face was full of disdain. She unhurriedly stepped on the air and followed behind Wang Kai, causing the demonic aura to follow closely behind him. If Kong Ro wanted to, she could definitely surround Wang Kai with the demonic aura in an instant. However, she did not do so. She was completely toying with Wang Kai. How many bragging points do I need to spend to break the demonic aura? Wang Kai's face was ashen. To be toyed with by a little girl like this, he was extremely angry in his heart. However, she was a rank 9 demon grandmaster. Even if Wang Kai used all his skills, he would definitely not be able to defeat her. Even if he used the 8 inner hidden gates and opened all 8 gates, he would definitely not be able to do it. The power of a rank 4 bloodline allowed Wang Kai to fight against a rank 6 martial grandmaster. If he opened all 8 gates, he would be able to fight against a rank 7 martial grandmaster. As for rank 8 and rank 9 martial grandmasters, he would not even be able to fight them. Host, with your current martial skills, you need to spend 1 bragging point to break the demonic aura. Only 1 point. When Wang Kai heard the notification, he immediately grinned and his body suddenly stopped. He waved his arms and shouted, "Break!" Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking the demonic aura. 1 bragging point has been used. Whoosh! The green aura that filled the air instantly dissipated, causing Kong Ro's expression to change. Her beautiful eyes blinked, and she cried out in surprise, "Bastard! How did you break my demonic aura? Do you really want to know? Then come and be Benshio's follower. Not only will you be able to eat and drink well, but you will also be able to see very mysterious things." Wang Kai smiled faintly with his hands behind his back. His face was unfathomable. No matter how strong this little girl was, she was still a child. If he wanted to deceive her, it would be too easy. Under Kong Ro's curious gaze, Wang Kai took out a green marble and suddenly flicked it at a mountain peak. Bang! Rumble! In an instant, the mountain peak was blasted apart. Rocks and trees were sent flying, and a huge hole appeared on the mountainside. It had been pierced through by the Yuan Qi bomb in an instant. How is it? That attack just now had the power of a rank 9 martial grandmaster. Wang Kai smiled proudly with his hands behind his back. What is the marble that you just flicked out? Quickly show it to me. Kong Ro's eyes lit up as she cried out in joy. She bared her small canine teeth, and her threat was self-evident. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain. With his hands behind his back, he smiled faintly and said, "Even if Ben Xiao is no match for you, if you want to capture Ben Xiao, you have to think about the power of that attack just now. Furthermore, if Ben Xiao is even the slightest bit dissatisfied, you will never see that marble again." Oomph. If I can't see it, then so be it. I'm already a level 9 demon grandmaster. I can easily do that attack just now. Kong Ro snorted indifferently. Her beautiful eyes blinked again and again, and her heart suddenly felt a little itchy. A rank 6 martial grandmaster could actually release the power of a rank 9 martial grandmaster. This was something that Kong Ro thought was impossible. However, it had happened right in front of her eyes. Looks like I have to give her a strong dose of medicine. Wang Kaisin thought to himself and immediately took out another marble. He smiled calmly and said, "I have the strength of a level 6 martial arts grandmaster. I can only condense a marble with the strength of a level 9 martial arts grandmaster. If you condense it, I wonder how powerful it will be." Sure enough, Kong Ro was tempted when she heard this. Her beautiful eyes blinked repeatedly as she gritted her teeth and snorted in a low voice. "Teach me how to condense marbles. Once I've mastered it, I'll definitely let you go." "Ha, that won't do. This method is something that Ben Xiao learned from the martial god in his childhood dream. The martial god once warned Ben Xiao that unless it was someone close to Ben Xiao, he must not teach this method. Otherwise, he will be punished by the 9 heavens' thunder. When that time comes, won't Ben Xiao be dead for sure?" Wang Kai smiled as he shook his head with his hands behind his back. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. If you die, then you die. Just teach me the method. Kong Ro blinked her beautiful eyes and smiled innocently. Chapter 87. Aha! This young master was born according to the mandate of heaven, so I must take it upon myself to benefit the world. Helping the weak, and saving the common people is my responsibility. If I die before completing my mission, wouldn't it disappoint all living beings? Wang Kai smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Is there any way to use this king binding rope? Hearing the prompt, Wang Kai hurriedly communicated with Kong Ro. He had no choice but to do this. Even though Kong Ro was still a child, she was extremely intelligent and quick-witted. It would be extremely difficult to deceive her, and he did not have the time to waste on this. Even with the strength of 4 grades and the opening of the 8 inner hidden gates, he could only fight against a 7th grade martial ancestor. He was definitely not a match for a 9th grade martial ancestor like Kong Ro. He could only rely on the king binding rope to solve this problem. Host, the king binding rope contains the bloodline aura of a martial king expert. Every time you forcibly use it, you will need to spend 30 bragging points. The bloodline aura of a martial king expert? Wang Kai's expression changed when he heard this. He smiled bitterly. He had thought that after stepping into the martial ancestor realm, Even if he was not as strong as Liu Yao, the difference would not be too great. Now, it seemed that he had been too naive. He never would have thought that Liu Yao was a martial king expert. He little bastard, what does the world have to do with a beautiful lady like me? No matter how many humans die, I don't care. If you can obediently hand over the secret method of condensing marbles, I can magnanimously accept you as my follower. Kong Ro squinted her eyes and smiled. Her two small canine teeth were bared, and her beautiful eyes were filled with mischief. Wang Kai's expression was playful when he heard this. He gently tossed the golden rope in his hand into the air and laughed mockingly. Tie this little girl up. Congratulations to the host for forcibly using a martial king expert's weapon. 30 bragging points have been consumed. Swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, the king binding rope coiled around Kong Ro like a dragon. Even though she was a level 9 demon grandmaster expert, she had no way to resist. In the blink of an eye, Kong Ro was bound from head to toe by the king binding rope. Her petite body immediately fell from the sky. Ah, bastard, little bastard, quickly come and save this young lady. Could it be that you want to watch a peerless beauty fall to her death? Do you have the heart to do that? Kong Ro's pretty face turned pale as she screamed repeatedly. Her body was bound by the king binding rope. She wanted to break free, but she found that she couldn't use any battle chi. She couldn't even exert any strength. Without the ability to tread on air or use battle chi to protect the body, even a martial king would find it hard to survive falling from such a height. Peerless beauty? TSK, TSK. Little sister, can we not be so narcissistic? She has no breasts and no buttocks. Wang Kai flashed over and carried Kong Ro on his shoulder. He curled his lips and smiled disdainfully. Bastard, I'm a peerless beauty now. I'll be a peerless beauty in the future. Kong Ro secretly heaved a sigh of relief and snorted. Slap. Hearing this, Wang Kai smiled playfully. He raised his hand and slapped her little buttocks. The crisp sound reverberated through the mountains, causing Kong Ro's delicate body to tremble. Her pretty face turned red as she clenched her teeth. She suddenly became obedient and didn't say a word for a long time. In front of the divine warpass, Liu Yao's white clothes fluttered as she stood in the air. In front of her, Beitang Qianjuan's clothes were tattered. His hair was disheveled and wounds covered his body. His left arm was missing and fresh blood kept dripping down. You've activated the power of your bloodline. Beitang Qianjuan's complexion was extremely gloomy. He felt a heart-wrenching pain from his severed arm. He was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. Even if he was a martial king expert, after losing an arm, his battle strength would be greatly reduced. Even if he fought with an opponent of the same rank, he would definitely be defeated. Although Beitang Qianjun was a middle-grade martial king, his real strength was no longer comparable to a middle-grade martial king. However, what made Beitang Qianjun really angry was Liu Yao's terrifying strength. He was only an inferior grade martial king, but he was able to defeat him so easily. As the palace master of the Shenwu Academy, he had stood at the top of the Fan Prefecture for hundreds of years. It was the first time he had been suppressed by a junior. A frog at the bottom of a well doesn't know how big the Milky Way is. If you leave the Fan province, you'll know how ridiculous your so-called pride is. Liu Yao snorted coldly. Beitang Qianjun was startled when he heard this. He smiled bitterly and said, I see, I see. No wonder you have such strength at such a young age. You followed Grandma 9 Dragons to the outside of the Fan province. Swish. After saying this, Beitang Qianjun no longer had any intention to fight. He activated his battle chi and turned around to escape. He used almost all of his strength. His speed was as fast as a shooting star. Clear wind sword. Swish. Liu Yao gently waved her hand, and a long sword appeared in her hand. Her movement was very simple. She stabbed through the air, and a strong wind sword blade rushed forward. Puff! Beitang Qianjuan's figure suddenly stopped. He lowered his head and looked at the hole in his chest. That bright red blood was flowing out like water. His complexion was pale as he slowly turned around. He stared at Liu Yao and stammered, Your master, Won't let you do as you wish, swish. As Beitang Qianjuan's body fell from the sky, Lu Yao waved her hand and put away her long sword. She turned to look in the direction where Wang Kai had been taken and said indifferently, "No one can change my mind. Miss Lu, young Master Wang Kai, I deserve to die. Putong." Putong, the general guarding the pass, and the numerous soldiers all knelt on one knee on the ground. They lowered their heads deeply, and their faces were filled with guilt. If they had opened the city gates wide earlier, such a situation would not have occurred. This is the duty of guarding the pass. This matter has nothing to do with you. Please get up. Lu Yao gently shook her head and said, "Little girl, now you know how powerful Ben Xiao is, right? Hee hee, I was just teasing you. Do you really think you are invincible?" Wang Kai said with a playful smile. Kong Ro's face was red. She tightly pursed her lips and gritted her teeth. Finally, she opened her mouth and said, "Bastard, can you move your hand away?" Hand? Wang Kai's eyebrows twitched when he heard this. Only then did he realize that his palm had been pinching her soft little butt all this time. He laughed awkwardly and said dryly, "I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. Don't mind it. I'm not interested in Lolas." "Bastard, you obviously touch so, damn it. You have tarnished this beautiful lady. You have to take responsibility." Kong Ro gritted her teeth and shouted. Chapter 88. You're courting death. Position swap. Whoosh. Wang Kai's expression instantly turned cold. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. With a tap of his feet, his body suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in front of Wan Lu. He raised his arm, and green battle chi instantly condensed. Then he slapped down on Wan Lu's head. Bang! However, an upper-level martial ancestor expert quickly moved forward. A green fist that was condensed with vigorous battle chi directly collided with Wang Kai's palm. Thud! 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 Puff! Wang Kai's face instantly turned pale. The huge force pushed his body back a few steps. His feet constantly tapped on the snowy ground. After forcefully stabilizing his body, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His arm trembled slightly, and the pain pierced his heart and lungs. Wang Kai. At this moment, Wan Lu finally reacted and saw the person who attacked him. Because of this, he secretly broke out in cold sweat. If it wasn't for the guards of the Wang mansion, he would have been killed by Wang Kai with a single slap. Wang Kai, you've come at the right time. Quickly take out the tiger token and go up the mountain to dispatch the army. Yuan Hao said with a frown. Cough, cough. Wang Kai's face was ashen as he coughed dryly. Hearing this, he stared coldly at Yuan Hao and sneered disdainfully. Dispatch your ass. Even if I want to dispatch, the first order is to kill all of you here. Presumptuous. Not only did you sneak attack me, but you also disregard the war of the dynasty. You really deserve to die. Men, execute him on the spot. Let those useless soldiers of the Wang family who ignored the crown prince's token see this as a warning to others. Wan Lu sneered and waved his arm. Immediately, an upper-level martial ancestor rushed to attack Wang Kai. Seeing this, Little Rock King's expression changed slightly. He immediately wanted to order the family guards to stop him. However, he realized that it was too late. The family guards, who were also upper-level martial ancestor experts, were of similar strength. It was too late to stop the family guards of the suppressing Heavenly King residents who had already attacked. 8 gates, cough, cough. Wang Kai sneered when he saw this. He immediately revolved his battle chi and was about to open the 8 inner hidden gates. But halfway through, Lu Yao suddenly stepped forward and waved her hand to interrupt him. Attacking the commander-in-chief, and even wanting to kill the commander-in-chief, insulting the Wang family army. Lu Yaoqing snorted coldly. She raised her jade-like hand and waved it gently. Immediately, a beam of battle chi swept across the air. Bang! Crack! The superior martial ancestor from the suppressing Heavenly King residence was instantly sent flying into the air. His body spun in the air, and with a loud explosion, he exploded in the air and turned into a pool of blood and flesh that scattered on the snowy ground. The white snow was dyed red and looked extremely glaring. Everyone's faces changed when they saw this. No one could have imagined that the imperial advisor's daughter, Lu Yao, would be so powerful. Even though he knew that Lu Yao's martial arts level was extremely high, it was impossible for her to kill a high-grade martial ancestor with a wave of her hand. However, when the truth happened before their eyes, they had no choice but to believe it. Everyone was dumbfounded on the spot. "Miss Lu, isn't it too much to kill a high-grade martial ancestor?" Yuan Hao frowned and asked. Whoosh! Wan Lu immediately regained his senses and nodded when he heard this. He sneered and said, "Every expert here wants to participate in the attack on the Tianwu dynasty. Now that you have casually killed a high-grade martial ancestor, you have already caused the war to lose a powerful martial artist. This crime, it is difficult for you to difficult your ass. Dai Bin Xiao." Wang Kai shouted with a cold expression. He revolved his battle chi and attacked again. Wan Lu was shocked when he saw this. He turned his head in panic and ran to the position of the family generals in his residence. He quickly shouted, "Save me! Kill Wang Kai quickly!" However, the family generals could not move at all. They wanted to protect Wan Lu, but they could not do anything. They could only watch as Wang Kai appeared in front of Wan Lu and chopped down on his head. "No! No!" Wan Lu screamed crazily. His face was pale, and he looked panicked. He looked at the family generals in his residence who were standing still like wooden blocks. A sense of despair instantly covered his heart. "Wang Kai, young Master Kai, spare me." Crack! In an instant, Wang Kai's palm smashed Wan Lu's head into pieces. The headless corpse fell into the snow with a plop. After twitching a few times, blood spurted out like water and melted a large area of the snow. Host, killing a target below your martial path realm will not give you a reward. Only those of the same martial ancestor realm will be rewarded according to their rank. When Wang Kai heard the notification, he curled his lips in disdain. He placed his hands behind his back and sneered in his heart, "Just a piece of trash. I don't care about the reward. On account of the fact that you are still useful in the war, I will only kill Wan Lu." Lu Yao placed her hands behind her back and snorted coldly. As soon as she finished speaking, the family generals of the suppressing Heavenly King residence regained control of their bodies. It was only at this moment that they realized it was Lu Yao who had suppressed them and made them unable to move. Now, looking at the headless corpse lying in the snow, the family generals lowered their heads deeply. Their expressions were filled with unwillingness and anger, but it was useless. In front of an absolute expert, resistance meant death. They did not want to die yet. "How dare Wan Lu humiliate my Wang family army? Even the current crown prince, the current Wang Shang, is not allowed." Wang Kai berated loudly with a cold face. Soon after, he clenched his fist. Green battle chi gathered, and he punched the headless corpse. Rumble! The headless corpse was smashed into minced meat and bone fragments. The thick layer of snow was blown up by Wang Kai's punch, creating a huge and deep pit. When everyone saw this scene, their eyelids twitched violently, especially Li Chengfeng and Su Ru. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Their bodies trembled as they took a few steps back. They turned their heads to the side and did not dare to say a word, afraid that they would be implicated. It was only at this moment that they realized how bloody and ruthless Wang Kai was. He had mercilessly killed the second son of the suppressing Heavenly King and even destroyed his corpse. It was even more cruel than the torture he had done to Wan Zhe on the Shenwu Academy's battle arena. Wu Wu Wu, Kong Ro, who was lying on the warhorse, had her beautiful eyes tightly shut. Her pretty face was pale as she kept sobbing. "Damn bastard! How dare you let me see such a disgusting scene? Bastard! Damn it!" Kong Ro gritted her teeth and cursed in her heart. "Wang Kai, Lu Yao, even if Wan Lu has violated the military rules, he does not deserve to die. What's more, your words just now were disrespectful to the Crown Prince and Wang Shang. In terms of crimes, you deserve to die even more." Yuan Hao berated in a deep voice. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes. With his hands behind his back, He walked leisurely towards Yuan Hao and stared at him coldly. He said disdainfully, "Even if Bin Xiao disrespected the crown prince and Wang Shang, so what? No matter who it is, as long as they dare to humiliate the soldiers of the Wang family, they will all pay the price. If you dare to act tough in front of Bin Xiao again, do you believe that I will kill you too?" Chapter 89. Kill me? Wang Kai, don't think that you're invincible just because you've broken through to the martial ancestor realm. You should quickly take out the Hu token and dispatch the army to the border where the empires are fighting. If you miss the opportunity, even old Commander Wang will not be able to protect you. Yuan Hao's face sunk as he laughed coldly. He swung his sleeves and left after his words sounded. The people from the three aristocratic families and the suppressing Heavenly King residents quickly followed after him. No one wanted to stay any longer. They were all frightened by Wang Kai's cruel methods. Liu Yao, who was a martial king, was here. On the mountain, there were also the loyal soldiers of the Wang clan. Making an enemy out of Wang Kai was no different than courting death. "Wait!" Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and called out with a mocking expression. Yuan Hao stopped abruptly and turned around with a cold face. He frowned and sneered. "Wang Kai, do you still want to keep me here?" With that, the expressions of the people from the three aristocratic families and the suppressing Heavenly King residents changed. They could not help but take a few steps back. They were afraid that the fight between Wang Kai and Yuan Hao would affect them. No matter which side it was not someone that the people present could afford to offend. It was definitely not someone that the three aristocratic families could afford to offend. "Haha, Bin Xiao, I don't know where you get your confidence from, but it's fine. Since you're bragging so loudly, why don't we have a duel here? If you can beat Bin Xiao, I'll give you the tiger token," Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Yuan Hao's eyes narrowed when he heard that. The coldness from before had completely disappeared and was replaced with a smile. He glanced at Liu Yao and said nonchalantly, "Wang Kai, you have such a powerful fiancé here. Who would dare to duel with you? So you're setting a trap for me? But your bragging isn't that great." Wang Kai laughed coldly in his heart. At first, he felt that it was strange. Yuan Hao, the Grand Chancellor's residence, would not fight him head-on. Yet, he chose to force him into a duel. The meaning behind this was self-evident. "Haha, my dear fiancé, you should go to the side and take a rest. It won't be too late to go up the mountain after your husband has taught this pretentious fellow a lesson. Don't worry, your husband is the most powerful man in the world. No one in the world who can stand shoulder to shoulder with me has been born yet," Wang Kai said with a calm smile. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point." Liu Yao nodded when she heard this. She did not say anything else. She glanced at Yuan Hao indifferently and stepped back. "Come, let Bin Xiao see where your so-called confidence comes from. And how much?" Wang Kai looked indifferent. With his hands behind his back, he glanced at Yuan Hao with disdain. Yuan Hao shook his head and sighed. Suddenly, a folding fan appeared in his hand. After he opened it with a click, several black blades pierced through it. He laughed softly and said, "Wang Kai, I advise you to admit defeat and hand over the tiger token. Although I like to cultivate the way of governing a country through literature, and I don't like the ability to use force through martial arts, you are still lacking in terms of the strength of your martial arts realm." Clap, clap, clap. Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands when he heard this. He looked at Yuan Hao with disdain and said, "Your bragging is really loud. Then, according to you, whether Bin Xiao wins or not, it's not glorious?" "Haha, you don't have to say more. Make your move," Yuan Hao said with a faint smile. Whoosh. Wang Kai squinted his eyes slightly. He moved his feet and rushed forward. His battle chi was circulating, and green light covered his palms. He came close to Yuan Hao and immediately slapped out with both palms. 10 dragon-subduing slaps. Bang! Bang! "Ha, too weak. I just said that you are still lacking in terms of your martial arts realm." Yuan Hao smiled faintly. He stood where he was without moving. As he waved the fan in his hand, he easily blocked Wang Kai's attack. Wow, you are so powerful. You have reached the 5th grade martial grandmaster realm. You're even more powerful than the crown prince, right? Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled. Suddenly, his palm turned into a saber and chopped down. All beings cut. Bang! Crack! In an instant, Yuan Hao's indifferent expression changed drastically. The folding fan that he had used to block the attack was instantly smashed into pieces by the palm. The powerful force and the explosive level of battle qi caused Yuan Hao to be greatly shocked. Immediately, his eyes darkened and he hurriedly retreated. Shifting positions. Whoosh! Wang Kai suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was behind Yuan Hao. He turned his palm into a saber and chopped down again. He said calmly, "All beings cut." Plop, plop. Yuan Hao's body was split into two from the head. He lost his balance and fell to the ground. The two halves of his body kept twitching. He looked around, but realized that he could not stand up. He was split into two halves, but he was not dead. He could not control his body. You're just a 5th grade martial grandmaster realm cultivator. Ben Xiao was just teasing you. The strength he displayed was only a 2nd grade martial grandmaster realm cultivator. Now that Ben Xiao is attacking with all his strength, you can't even dodge it. I wonder who you were referring to when you said that I was too weak. Wang Kai said with a smile. He looked down at the two halves of Yuan Hao's body on the ground mockingly. When Yuan Hao heard this, the two halves of his body kept twitching. However, he could not control them. The two halves of his body opened their mouths and sneered. You are indeed very powerful. You have surprised me. It has only been a few days since you broke through the martial grandmaster realm, and you have reached the 6th grade martial grandmaster realm. However, compared to the crown prince, you are still inferior. Through the fight just now, Yuan Hao already knew the strength of Wang Kai's battle qi when Wang Kai displayed his battle qi. However, even if Yuan Hao racked his brains, he would never have guessed that Wang Kai was only a 2nd grade martial grandmaster realm cultivator. He had the battle qi of a 6th grade martial grandmaster realm cultivator because of his bloodline. Hee, you don't have to act tough with Ben Xiao. So what if the crown prince is very powerful? Ben Xiao is not afraid to tell you that the strength that Ben Xiao displayed just now was only 1/10 of Ben Xiao's full strength. Wang Kai sneered disdainfully. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. When he heard this, Yuan Hao was stunned. The two halves of his mouth twitched, and he said calmly, I hope you are not bragging. When everyone saw Yuan Hao's pitiful state, they were so scared that they felt cold air from their feet to their heads. His body had been cut in half, but there was not a single drop of blood. He did not die on the spot. Instead, his body was still twitching as he spoke. Young Master Kai, I am willing to follow you to attack the Tianwu dynasty. Li Chengfeng swallowed his saliva and hurriedly stepped forward to salute. His previous arrogance had disappeared. Su Ru and Su Yi also led their generals forward and cupped their fists to express their stance. They were afraid that Wang Kai would vent his anger on them and make them suffer the same fate as Yuan Hao. That would be worse than death. Chapter 90. Scram. Go to the battlefield of the two empires immediately. This young master will at most spare your lives on account of your contributions to the divine martial empire. Wang Kai snorted with a rather cold expression. He hated despicable people who bullied the weak and sucked up to those in power, just like Li Chengfeng and Su Ru. If it weren't for the fact that their families were powerful, Wang Kai wouldn't have spared their lives. Yes, young Master Kai. Li Chengfeng and the rest gritted their teeth and bowed their heads. Their eyes were filled with resentment and anger, but they didn't dare to do anything. They could only turn around and leave. Everyone from the residence of the suppressing heavenly king can stay. The rest can leave. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. Since he knew that the residence of the suppressing heavenly king was plotting against the divine martial academy, how could he let them live? Swoosh! The guards of the residence of the suppressing heavenly king paused and looked at each other. Immediately, They activated their battle chi and stepped into the air. Hee, young Master Kai. Although I don't know what you want to do, I'll take care of these people. Little Rock King grinned and laughed softly. He immediately spread out his two golden wings and flew into the sky with a flap. Everyone, follow the young master. Many of the great Peng Manor's guards followed closely behind and leaped into the air. Wang Kai was surprised to see this. Looking at the little Rock King who was chasing after them, he couldn't help but smile. Looks like he's breaking through very quickly. He even dares to challenge a middle or upper grade martial grandmaster now. The descendant of the Golden Rock, one of the most powerful tribes in the Demon Continent. His speed of breaking through in the Demon Dao is not any slower than ours. Liu Yao said coldly. Wang Kai shrugged when he heard this. Even though the golden-winged rock's cultivation speed was faster than many humans, it did not mean that it could be faster than him. After all, he did not rely on cultivation, accumulation, and comprehension to break through the realm of martial arts. Where are the guards of the marshal's residence? Wang Kai frowned and looked coldly at the two halves of Yuan Hao's body. Oomph. Yuan Hao snorted in disdain and didn't say anything else. During the war between the two dynasties, Wang Kai had killed important figures one after another. Now, he even wanted to kill all the generals in the residence of suppressing Heavenly King. Only Wang Kai would do something so outrageous. The generals of the marshal's residence are all on the mountain. I've already detected their auras just now. They should be with the 7 generals now. Liu Yao said indifferently. Wang Kai nodded lightly. He flipped his hand and gathered the two halves of Yuan Hao's body together. He placed the two halves of Yuan Hao's body neatly together and laughed in disdain. You call yourself the young master of the Grand Chancellor's residence. Don't you know that the residence of the suppressing Heavenly King has already allied with the Shenwu Academy? Of course I know. However, they can't die yet because they have to give their lives to the Divine Martial Dynasty to deal with the Tianwu Dynasty. Yuan Hao said coldly. That's enough. Your body is already in 2 halves and you still have so much to say. Let me tell you frankly, the Shenwu Academy and the Tianwu Dynasty have already secretly allied with each other. The residence of the suppressing Heavenly King is their middleman. As for your body, just circulate your battle chi and you'll be fully recovered in 2 hours. Of course, if you can't bear it and want to move, causing your body to be separated, then you will have to live with 2 halves for the rest of your life. Wang Kai waved his hand disdainfully. He then led the war horse up the mountain. Liu Yao put her hands behind her back, and her white dress fluttered as she followed closely behind. When she passed by Yuan Hao, she said calmly, too much confidence in the power of the divine martial dynasty will lead to the dynasty's destruction. On Mount Wangshui, the army of 200,000 stood neatly. Their expressions were solemn, and their eyes were burning with passion as if they were waiting for something. Every soldier was dressed in black armor, similar to old Marshal Wang's. However, their capes were black, and so were the spears in their hands. At the very front of them stood 7 generals in black armor, white capes, and silver spears. Every one of them looked to be over 50 years old, but they still stood tall and straight. Their burly and valiant bodies seemed to be filled with explosive power. Hundreds of Wu Zong family generals from the marshal's residence stood at the periphery of the army. They looked excited and envious. Young master is here. A family general rushed up from the foot of the mountain and shouted nonstop. Immediately, the army of 200,000 became even more solemn, especially the 7 generals who stood at the front. They could not help but straighten their backs. Snow on Mount Tianshan in May. There are no flowers, only cold. I hear the plucking of willows and the flute. I have not seen the beauty of spring. I fight with the golden drum at dawn. I sleep with the jade saddle. I am willing to slay Lulan with the sword at my waist. Everyone, you have been stationed here for more than 50 years. You have endured the pain of missing your loved ones to protect the peace of your country. Please accept my bow. Wang Kai climbed up the mountain. When he saw the densely packed and orderly army, his heart was filled with pride and admiration. It was said that soldiers were good men. Today, he saw that they were indeed extraordinary. Then, He quickly walked to the front with a straight posture. Then he bowed respectfully with cupped fists and bowed deeply. Swoosh! After he finished speaking, the army of 200,000 looked solemn. Their eyes were slightly red, but they did not shed a single tear. It was only an instant of emotion before they regained their composure. Although they did not understand the poem that Wang Kai recited earlier, they heard the words that came after clearly. Marshal Wang's army, 1 vanguard. Wang Zhan joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 2 vanguards. Wang Bai joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 3 vanguards. Wang Ji joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 4 vanguards. Wang Quan joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 5 vanguards. Wang Ju joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 6 vanguards. Wang Yin joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 7 vanguards. Wang Ke joins in. Marshal Wang's army, 7 vanguards. Wang Ke joins in. In an instant, the 7 generals knelt on one knee and greeted loudly. Their voices were high and full of fighting spirit. Immediately after, the army of 200,000 knelt on one knee and shouted loudly with a solemn expression. Hearing the neat sound of armor rubbing against each other, Wang Kai was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that their surname was also Wang. He raised his head and looked at the soldiers, took a deep breath, and said in a heroic voice, "Everyone, please rise quickly and follow me to battle." Yes. Swish! The sound of armor rubbing together sounded again. The army of 200,000 stood up and moved in unison without the slightest chaos. Such a scene made Wang Kai admire them even more. "Young master, please show us the tiger token," the 7 generals said in unison. Wang Kai's face stiffened when he heard this. He could only smile bitterly in his heart. He looked at Lu Yao in the distance, as if he was asking for help. However, he saw that she turned her head away with a playful smile at the corner of her mouth. "It's over. Bencheo's performance just now was not bad. What should I do now? If I tell them that I did not bring the tiger token here, won't I be finished?" Wang Kai's heart jumped, but he maintained a graceful smile on his face. He nodded and chuckled. Chapter 91. Lu Yao from the Imperial Advisor's residence greets the generals of the Wang family. Just as the situation was about to turn awkward, Lu Yao slowly walked over and stood beside Wang Kai. She slightly bowed and greeted him, intentionally or unintentionally emphasizing the words Wang family army. "Greetings, young mistress." In an instant, the 200,000 soldiers placed their hands on their chests and greeted Lu Yao respectfully. Their eyes were filled with gratification. Wang Kai suddenly understood and couldn't help but look at Lu Yao with admiration. He waved his arm and said heroically, "I don't know where I left the tiger token. If all of you are willing to follow me, I won't let you down." Whoosh! Under the leadership of the 7 generals, the 200,000 soldiers raised their black spears and shouted in unison, "We are willing to follow you." It was indeed useful. The 200,000 soldiers weren't loyal to the emperor of the Shenwu dynasty, but to the Wang family of the marshal's residence. Wang Kai suddenly felt a surge of emotions. He placed his hands behind his back and couldn't help but become excited. He smiled proudly and said, "Everyone, please be at ease. If the Tianwu dynasty dares to not submit to me, I will only need to snort, and I will definitely be able to wipe out the enemy." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 3 Martial Ancestor Realm. Watch your mouth. Lu Yao frowned and said coldly through telepathy. When Wang Kai heard the sound transmission, his face suddenly became embarrassed. He couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He looked at the many soldiers and saw that they were all stunned at the moment. The corner of his mouth twitched fiercely. He was used to bragging. How could he control himself? Ha ha ha. As expected of the Wang family's young master, you should have such a demeanor. A general's face twitched as he tried to smooth things over with a stiff expression. That's right. How bold. You're brave. Immediately, the other 6 generals also praised him. For a moment, Wang Kai felt a little embarrassed. Young lord's demeanor. The 200,000 soldiers shouted in unison. Wang Kai secretly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He looked at the general who took the lead in mediating the situation with a rather appreciative look. With his hand behind his back, he smiled and said, "General Wang Zhan, please follow me. I would like to consult you about the strategy of this battle." "Yes, young master." Wang Zhan solemnly acknowledged the order when he heard this. The instant he cupped his hands together and lowered his head, he used an extremely pleased gaze to sweep over the 6 generals beside him. That guy beat me to it again. It was the same when the old marshal led the army. Sigh. It seems that it will be difficult to snatch the position of the vanguard leader. The expressions of the 6 generals were extremely solemn, but they secretly sighed to each other through voice transmission. No matter when, a smart person would never be too bad. "Move out." After Wang Kai shouted, the 7 generals and the 200,000 soldiers all put their fingers to their mouths and blew a whistle that reverberated through the forest. Hiss, rumble. In an instant, the cries of war horses rang out, accompanied by the sound of hooves. One after another, snow-white war horses appeared in the field of vision. They all seemed to be psychic and had found their respective masters. What kind of horses are these? They are actually so handsome. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and looked at the snow-white war horses in amazement. The horses were vigorous and handsome, with strong torsos and slender limbs. The horses' hooves were as black as ink, leaving no traces on the snow. The horses' neat snow-white manes fluttered in the wind as they ran, looking valiant and heroic. When they stopped, they stood upright, looking quite spirited. Although the air-stepping horse has no wings, it can fly. Its skin is as hard as iron, and its bones are as hard as steel. Its legs can travel 8,000 miles a day, and it can travel 12,000 miles a day. It has the strength of a peak martial master. It is a unique horse in the Yuanzhan Wu dynasty. During the Battle of the Gods, the old marshal liked this horse and delayed it for some time. Otherwise, with old Marshal Wang's ability, it would only take 3 months to destroy the Yuanzhan Wu dynasty. Air-stepping horse. The strength of a peak martial master. Wang Kai smacked his lips when he heard this. He thought about the war horses that he and Liu Yao rode. They had the strength of a martial disciple and had undergone special training. Compared to the void-treading horse, it was like heaven and earth. Thinking about this, his gaze couldn't help but fall on the war horse that he rode. Just as he was about to change his horse, his face suddenly stiffened. "Oh no, where did Kong Ro go?" Wang Kai's expression suddenly changed. He quickly rushed to the front of the war horse, only to find that there was only the king binding lock on it. There was no trace of Kong Ro. The king binding lock. Even if I used all my strength, I could not break free. Even if she is a 9th grade demon grandmaster, it would be difficult for her to break free. Wang Kai frowned and muttered in confusion. Even a martial king expert would find it difficult to break free from the king binding lock. Since you can use it by force, can't you feel where she is now? Liu Yao said indifferently. She walked lightly to the front of the war horse. With a wave of her hand, the loosened king binding lock gradually revealed Kong Ro's figure. Wang Kai was speechless when he heard this and rolled his eyes. He was able to use the king binding lock by force, not because of his martial realm. He touched his chin and said doubtfully, "She shouldn't be able to use her demon chi. How could she still be invisible?" Woo woo woo. Woo woo woo. Kong Ro's face was ugly. She stared at Liu Yao with tears in her eyes. She never thought that the demon chi that she had accumulated along the way would be seen through by Liu Yao after she used her invisibility. The Demon Continent's Peacock clan has a miraculous technique that allows them to hide their bodies. If I hadn't followed Master to the Demon Continent in the past, I wouldn't have been able to discover her true body, Liu Yao said indifferently. Invisibility technique. Damn it. Wang Kai's eyes suddenly lit up. He squinted his eyes and looked at her with a smile. He laughed softly and said, "Little girl, if you are willing to hand over this technique, Ben Shao will kindly let you go. How about it?" Woo woo. Woo woo woo. Kong Ro's face was full of disdain as she kept sobbing and turned her head away. This technique can only be practiced by those who have the Peacock clan's bloodline. You'd better not think about such crooked things. Liu Yaoqing snorted coldly as she glanced at Wang Kai with her beautiful eyes. Young Marshal, the army is ready. We can set out at any time. Wang Zhan was wearing black armor with a white cloak behind him. He held a silver spear and went forward to report. Hearing this, Wang Kai nodded gently, looking at the many soldiers with a solemn expression. Immediately after, he kicked Kong Ro off her war horse and mounted it himself. Waving his arms, he said, "Move out. Attack the Sky Martial Realm from the left. Occupy the royal city and take Wang Shang's head. Occupy the royal city and take his head. Damn bastard. I'll never let you get away with this. How dare you kick me?" Kong Ro lay on the snow with tears in her eyes. She had already cursed Wang Kai thousands of times in her heart. Chapter 92. Sky-Suppressing King. Do you really want to be the eternal sinner of the divine martial dynasty? A thunderous roar exploded in the sky. The divine martial dynasty's Wang Shang, Wan Batian, stepped into the air. His dignified square face was filled with violence. Above his head, a ferocious giant with 2 hammers floated. "Brother Wang, it has been 100 years since Father passed the throne to you. Now it's time for me to sit on the throne of the divine martial dynasty. If you want to blame someone, blame your overconfidence. You are destined to perish here today." 2 middle-aged armored men stood in the void opposite him. One of them had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a full beard. His body was burly and valiant, and there was also a giant holding a pair of hammers floating above his head. This man was the divine martial dynasty's sky-suppressing king. Aha! Let's join forces and kill this useless king. From now on, there will only be 2 Wang Shang in the Fan State. One of them will be the sky-suppressing king, and the other will be the divine martial dynasty. The other middle-aged man laughed loudly. He wore a tiger skin that exposed half of his chest. There were scars all over his body, and his muscles bulged. His face was frighteningly fierce. This man was the divine martial dynasty's Wang Shang, Tuoba Kwang. "Brother Tuoba, you have yet to reveal your cosmic form. How can I kill him quickly by myself?" Sky-Suppressing King snorted unhappily. Tuoba Kwang grinned ferociously when he heard this. He suddenly threw a long spear into the sky and spread his arms wide. He raised his head and laughed wildly. "Ha ha! Since that is the case, let's end this quickly. Cosmic form, heavy divine spear." Buzz! In an instant, the long spear above Tuoba Kwang's head turned into a 1,000-meter-long giant spear. It was dozens of meters thick like a giant stick. It floated in the air and pointed at Wan Batian. Heavy divine spear. "Today, I'd like to see if your spear is heavier or if my giant hammer strongman is stronger." Wan Batian sneered. He tapped his foot, and his figure immediately pierced through the air. The twin hammer, giant hammer, hovering above his head, mimicked Wan Batian's movements. It swung its hammers and followed closely behind. At the same time, in the center of the battlefield below, Prince Wankong's armor was stained with blood. He held a long sword in his hand and continued to fight. Behind him were hundreds of martial arts grandmasters from the royal family. They were fighting with the crown prince of the Tianwu dynasty, Tuoba Lai. "Your Highness, I'm late." "Patter." Yuan Hao suddenly opened the fan in his hand. Black blades shot out of the fan as he jumped down from the air and landed beside Prince Wankong. Is Wang Kai still safe? Has Wang Shuaishan's vanguard of 200,000 soldiers arrived? Prince Wankong's eyes were bloodshot. After a fierce battle, he had gone mad. However, the difference in numbers between the 2 armies was too great. He was only exhausted now. Presently, Crown Prince Wankong's heart was filled with complicated feelings. He never would have thought that a mere Wang Kai would actually become the key to victory or defeat in the war. However, he had no choice but to place his hopes on Wang Kai. If Wang Kai met with misfortune, the Marshal's mansion would not intervene. That would mean that the Shenwu dynasty would be destroyed. Your Highness, please forgive me. If I had predicted that the Shinwu Academy would ally with the Tianwu dynasty, the Shinwu dynasty would not have fallen into such a dangerous situation. Yuan Hao said with guilt. Prince Wang did not dwell on this matter. Instead, he asked sternly, is Wang Kai still safe? Has Wang Shuaishan's 200,000 soldiers arrived? Wang Kai is safe and sound. 200,000 soldiers are rushing here. Yuan Hao was stunned. He quickly cupped his fists and replied, Men, quickly inform Marshal Wang of this and ask him to fight. Crown Prince Wang Kong was delighted and immediately gave the order with a laugh. Yes, Your Highness. Then, a martial king expert stepped into the air and turned into a ray of light. They are indeed a defeated dynasty. Seeing that they are about to lose the war, even a martial king expert has fled. A young man in his 20s said with disdain. He was wearing tiger skin and holding 2 large swords. His face was ferocious and rough. He was the Tianwu dynasty's crown prince, Tuobo Lai. Your Highness, should we kill the martial king who escaped? A martial king expert asked in a low voice. Tuobo Lai waved his hand disdainfully. He waved his long sword and pointed at Wang Kong. He shouted, Don't chase a cornered enemy. Let's take the crown prince's head first. Kill! Kill! In an instant, under the leadership of Tuobo Lai, countless soldiers followed closely behind. After a series of battles, the army of 1,000,000 had lost about 200,000 soldiers. However, there was still 2 million soldiers left. Prince Wang Kong of the Tianwu dynasty had lost less than 300,000 soldiers of his 700,000 soldiers. Looks like there are changes. The Marshal's mansion has joined the war. Elder Ling Dan, who was standing beside the Golden Tower, frowned. He glanced coldly at Marshal Wang, who had rushed into the war zone, and the generals and experts of the Marshal's mansion. Haha, isn't that simple? I will kill all of the Marshal's mansion now, Mahamiri Emperor said with a cold smile. Elder Ling Dan immediately stopped him. He said sternly, No, if we alert the Marshal's mansion's butler, Uncle Fu, this war will be unpredictable. He is just a butler in fan state. How powerful can he be? Even though my cultivation has been suppressed to the peak of the Martial King realm, I am invincible in the Fan Prefecture, except for Emperor Fan, Mahamiri Emperor said disdainfully. Then he swooped down toward the experts from the Marshal's mansion. Mahamiri Emperor, if you don't want the recovery of the Skirich Tower's weapon spirit to fail, come back quickly. Elder Ling Dan scolded sternly. Swoosh! Mahamiri Emperor's eyes hardened when he heard that. He stepped into the air slowly and said indifferently, Ling Dan, don't forget who I am. Senior Mahamiri Emperor, we are about to succeed. Please don't spoil the big picture because of a small matter. I was too worried just now and spoke rudely. I hope you won't take it to heart. Elder Ling Dan lowered his head and cupped his fists. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Bang! 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 Suddenly, waves of drum sounds shook the sky like thunder. It was accompanied by waves of extremely powerful pressure and a frightening aura. It immediately shook both armies on the battlefield to the point that they involuntarily stopped moving. Their expressions were shocked as they raised their heads to look at the sky. Wang Kai, Liu Yao, Kong Ro, Wang Shuaishan's 200,000 vanguard troops. In an instant, cries of surprise could be heard. The legend of Wang Shuaishan's 200,000 vanguard troops had already spread throughout Fan State. Seeing it now, the Tianwu dynasty's army was so shocked that their hearts beat wildly. Oh, the battle is quite intense. Wang Kai stood in the air with his hands behind his back. He looked down calmly and chuckled softly. Beside him, Liu Yao's white dress fluttered in the wind. Her figure was graceful and her temperament was otherworldly. She was like a fairy that had descended from the 9 heavens. Behind him, the sky was filled with soldiers clad in black armor. Each of them held a black spear and pointed it towards the sky. The 7 Martial King generals had white capes and silver spears, and they looked extremely powerful. 2 royal commander banners fluttered in the wind, and the commander drums on both sides boomed loudly. The aura filled the air and crushed down, causing the army below to suffocate. Chapter 93. Cough, cough. Since you have such intentions, then go down and annihilate the entire army. Ben Shao is merciful and does not wish to kill anymore. Wang Kai placed his hands behind his back and smiled indifferently. However, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The primordial chi bomb, just now, was the one that had been condensed in the heaven-reaching tower. The remaining two were not as powerful as the previous ones. They were only 9th grade martial ancestor realm. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. We accept the order. Wang Zhan's expression was solemn as he bowed and accepted the order. He immediately got up and jumped onto his horse. He pointed the silver spear in his hand downwards and shouted, "Vanguard, follow me and annihilate the enemy." "Yes, sir." "Vanguard, too. Follow me and annihilate the enemy." Vanguard, 3, Vanguard 4. Then the 7 Vanguard armies totaled 200,000 soldiers. Under the leadership of the 7 generals, they rode on their void-stepping horses and charged down from the sky. In an instant, green battle chi gathered, and their battle cries shook the sky. They were extremely ferocious and terrifying. They were like heavenly soldiers crushing down from the sky. The Tianwu dynasty is destined to be defeated. 9 Dragons Granny, looks like you won't get what you want. Lu Baiyu smiled lightly and squinted her eyes. She looked at the fleeing Tianwu army with a mocking expression. Granny 9 Dragons coldly snorted and looked at Wang Kai coldly. She pointed her dragon head walking stick at the air, and with a bang, a ripple of battle chi spread out from her walking stick. "Master!" Whoosh! 2 young men came from afar. One was wearing white armor and holding a white spear. The other was wearing black armor and holding a black broadsword. When they arrived in front of 9 Dragons Granny, they bowed and greeted her respectfully. "Bai Long, hey Hu, capture the young man beside your junior sister. Remember, do not kill him." 9 Dragons Granny said indifferently, "Yes, master." Whoosh, whoosh. Bai Long and He Hu accepted the order and turned around. With a tap of their feet, they charged towards Wang Kai. "Ling Xian, stop the 2 of them. You can kill him." Lu Baiyu narrowed her eyes and said with a faint smile, "Bang, bang." A purple veil fluttered in the air and directly forced the white dragon and the black tiger back a few steps. The 2 of them looked at each other and frowned slightly. Hee, if it weren't for Master's orders, Ling Xian wouldn't have helped that heartless man. Li Ling Xian was wearing a purple dress, and her beautiful face was full of smiles. A purple petal flashed between her eyebrows. She had a seductive temperament and a charming figure. With a gentle wave of her jade-like hand, the purple veil immediately returned and wrapped around her shoulders. "Inferior grade, Martial King," Bai Long said coldly. He should have just stepped into the 1st grade Martial King realm. "Leave this woman to Junior Brother. Senior Brother, go capture that young man." He Hu said indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his large black blade and flew into the sky, directly attacking Li Lingxian. Seeing this, the white dragon gently nodded. Its feet stepped on the air, and in the blink of an eye, it passed Li Lingxian. "Master, these 2 people are both 7th grade Martial Kings. I'm afraid Lingxian alone will not be able to stop them." Li Lingxian frowned slightly. Her seductive figure flashed and disappeared in the air. Her jade-like hand waved and the veil spread, wanting to repel He Hu. However, she was unable to break through his attack. "Sigh, if I knew this would happen, I would have taken in another disciple." Lu Baiyu shook her head and smiled. She stood in the air with her hands behind her back. She looked curiously at Wang Kai and Lu Yao in the distance. Granny 9 Dragons was also looking at them. Her aged face was full of coldness and confidence. "Senior Brother Bai Long, don't let junior sister disregard our friendship." Whoosh! Lu Yao's face was extremely cold. Her graceful figure flashed, and a long sword appeared in her jade-like hand. She leaned to the side and shielded Wang Kai behind her. She looked at the young man in white armor who was rushing over. Junior Sister Lu, what Master does is for your own good, Bai Long said coldly. He turned around and was about to pass Lu Yao when he felt a chill in his body. He quickly waved his white spear in front of him to block. Clang! Bang! Wah! Bai Long was immediately pierced by the sword. He spat out blood and was sent flying. A turbulent cyan battle aura appeared in the air. He shouted, Cosmic form, Thunder Dragon! Crackle! When a 1,000-meter-long dragon surrounded by lightning appeared on top of Bai Long's head, he stopped flying. He raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Lu Yao and praised with a smile, as expected of the person Master thinks highly of, as expected of the Lu family's genius. Even the weakest bloodline is at the 7th level. Senior Brother Bai, you are no match for me. If you dare to attack again, don't blame me for disregarding our friendship. Lu Yao said coldly. Bai Long frowned when he heard this. There was hesitation in his eyes. If Lu Yao had not shown mercy just now, he would have been killed on the spot with just one move. The weakest bloodline was at the 7th level. In addition, Lu Yao was a 3rd-rank martial king. She could easily defeat a 9th-rank martial king expert. Bai Long was only a 7th-rank martial king. Even if he used his cosmic form, he was no match for Lu Yao. If he continued to fight, he would definitely die. Yao, do you still want to tangle with that Wang Kai? He is only an ordinary person from the Fan province. Even if he has some talent, he will only be a martial king at the end of his life. Now, he can only hide behind you. How can such a weak person be worthy of you? Grandma Nine Dragons said coldly. Hearing this, Lu Yao's face remained calm. She gently waved her sword and said indifferently, Master, no one can sway my will. Even if he's not good in literature or martial arts, he's still my future husband. You? Fine. Mahamayuri King, if you capture Wang Kai now, I can suppress the heaven-reaching tower and give it to you. Grandma Nine Dragons said coldly. Mahamayuri King was calm. He glanced at Kong Ro, who was tied to the horse, and shook his head. He said indifferently, I can't agree to this. Bastard, you are just a martial emperor from the Monster Province. How dare you go against the Lu family of the Martial Province? Aren't you afraid of starting a war between the Peacock tribe and the Lu family? Or should I say, your status in the Peacock tribe is not as noble as I thought. Grandma Nine Dragons scolded sternly. The Lu family of the Martial Province. Mahamayuri King's eyes narrowed. He looked at Grandma Nine Dragons carefully. When he saw the dragon-headed walking stick in her hand, he suddenly reacted and said in surprise, You are the Grandma Nine Dragons from the Lu family of the Martial Province? Humph. Is there a second Grandma Nine Dragons in this world? Grandma Nine Dragons said coldly. Mahamayuri King had mixed feelings. He did not expect that the outsiders from the Fan province would be so powerful. He did not pay much attention to it first, but now he knew the truth. Damn, the elixir. How dare you not inform me of such an important matter? Mahamayuri King's heart was cold. He looked at Wang Kai and then at Kong Ro. He gritted his teeth and his face turned pale. Indeed, Mahamayuri King's status in the Peacock tribe was not very high. If the Lu family was really angry, the Peacock tribe would probably hand him over to appease the Lu family's anger. It was because he wanted to get rid of his low status that Mahamayuri King came to the Fan province. His goal was to take the Tong Tian Tower and climb to a high position in the Peacock tribe. Hee, Bin Shao seems to have heard the funniest joke in the world. Take Bin Shao's life? The Lu family of the Martial Province? May I ask, where are those people? Do you believe that Bin Shao can defeat all of them when he enters the Martial Province in the future? Wang Kai sneered. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Thank you to the friends who voted for the recommendation. Thank you to the friends who supported this book. You can rest assured that this book will not be unfinished. As long as you are here, Wang Kai will be here. I have a completed work of over 3 million words. As for what kind of book it is, I won't say. I will update twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. When I get on the right track, I will update 10,000 words a day. I am not bragging. Chapter 94. Bastard. Mahamiri Emperor. Hurry up and capture him. Granny Nine Dragons scolded sternly. Her wrinkled face was filled with coldness. Mahamiri King's face turned pale. Even Grandma, Nine Dragons of the Lu family, did not have the intention to kill Wang Kai when she was enraged. Instead, she wanted him to capture Wang Kai. He could not help but think of the old housekeeper of the Marshal's mansion, Uncle Fu, that Ling Dan had mentioned before. He must have a powerful background. Moreover, he must be someone who could challenge Grandma Nine Dragons. First, it was the Lu family of the Wu state. Now, it was the Marshal's mansion from an unknown force. Return Rower to me. I'm willing to leave the Fan state immediately. Mahamiri King gritted his teeth and said he did not want to stay here any longer. He was afraid that if he offended someone, it would be difficult for him to survive in the monster state. Wang Kai nodded and threw Kong Ro to him. He smiled and said, Mahamiri King, you know how to read the situation. No matter how powerful the Lu family of the Wu state is, they are as weak as a newborn baby in front of Ben Shao. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Keep. Under the control of Lu Yao's mind, the king binding rope turned into a golden thread and disappeared into her hair. Damn bastard. Don't let me see you again. Kong Ro was furious. She gritted her teeth and cursed. Let's go. Mahamiri Emperor frowned and grabbed Kong Ro. He immediately turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the horizon. In his heart, he had already treated the Fan province as a place that no one should come to. Only now did he understand why no one came to the Fan province, even though it was so weak. Hee, Grandma Nine Dragons, you just said that Ben Shao is a weak piece of trash who can only hide behind a woman. What you don't know is that my fiancée is not protecting Ben Shao. She is protecting senior brother White Dragon for the sake of their friendship. Wang Kai said with a smile with his hands behind his back. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Granny Nine Dragons was stunned when she heard that. Even Lu Baiyu narrowed her eyes and watched curiously. Stop talking nonsense. You only have a level 4 bloodline power and you're a martial ancestor. If you can't increase your bloodline power through other methods, you'll be stuck in the martial ancestor realm for the rest of your life. If you fight with the White Dragon, you'll definitely die. Lu Yao transmitted her voice with a cold expression. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He did not choose to use secret voice sending. Instead, he said bluntly, My lady fiancée, please step aside and watch how your husband tortures this White Dragon Martial King. Yes, just 1 sword strike is enough. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to 1st grade Martial King. Congratulations to the host for successfully upgrading your bloodline power to level 5. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to Martial King. Unlocking the Dharma Idol, 10,000 transformations. The series of notifications made Wang Kai's heart jump. His expression became more and more confident. Just now, as a level 9 martial ancestor realm cultivator, even if he relied on his bloodline power, he would not be able to defeat a martial king. After all, only a level 10 bloodline power could surpass an entire realm to fight. Now that he had successfully broken through to martial king, relying on a level 5 bloodline power, he could fight against a level 6 martial king. With the 8 inner hidden gates, fighting against a level 7 martial king was no longer difficult. Wang Kai, don't mess around. Lu Yao coldly reprimanded. You're just a commoner from the Fan province who doesn't know what's good for you. If you fight with the White Dragon, you'll die in 1 move. Granny Nine Dragons disdainfully said. Wang Kai's face darkened. It seemed that in Lu Yao's heart, he wasn't that strong. He had to help her change her mind. 10,000 transformations, Dharma Idol. Descend. In an instant, Above Wang Kai's head, a huge figure appeared. It wore a white robe that fluttered in the wind. Its expression and appearance were exactly the same as Wang Kai's. Cosmic aspect. Martial King. Such a scene caused Granny Nine Dragon's pupils to shrink. Her wrinkled hands that held the dragon-headed walking stick slightly trembled. She couldn't believe that Wang Kai was a martial king expert. Ho ho, if that's the case, there'll be a good show to watch. Lu Baiyu squinted her eyes and lightly laughed. Her expression was filled with surprise. Haha, that heartless man is really a narcissistic guy. Even his cosmic form is condensed from his original body. In the distant sky, Li Lingxian, who was fighting with the black tiger, laughed. Her beautiful eyes swept over the giant above Wang Kai's head. Liu Yao's beautiful face was filled with disbelief. She stared blankly at Wang Kai's cosmic aspect and felt the aura he released. It was the Martial King realm. My dear fiancé, your husband has already reached the Martial King realm 10 years ago. It's just that I'm too dazzling and I don't want to show off too much. Please step aside and let your husband see the strength of the martial state's younger generation. Wang Kai smiled calmly with his hands behind his back. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 1,000 experience and 1 bragging point. Liu Yao nodded lightly and automatically ignored Wang Kai's words. She stared at Wang Kai's determined and confident expression and put away her long sword. With a light step, she retreated to the distant sky. 10 years ago, he was already a martial king? Didn't that mean that Wang Kai had already reached the peak of the fan state when he was 5 or 6 years old? Who would believe such words? Huh, you're indeed the bragging god of Wang City. Lu Baiyu couldn't help but laugh loudly. Bang! Grandma Nine Dragon's wrinkled face was filled with coldness. She forcefully tapped her dragon-headed walking stick and said indifferently, So what if you've reached the Martial King realm? You're only a first-grade martial artist. If you don't have a bloodline above the 6th grade, you won't be able to fight by long. You're just a mere commoner from Fan State. However, the Nine Dragons' granny stopped halfway through her words and looked at Wang Kai in shock. 8 gates have hidden. Open all 8 gates. Buzz. In an instant, streams of red and black streams of air circled around his body. Wang Kai's aura also increased crazily in an instant. In the blink of an eye, his aura reached the level of a 7th-grade martial king. The 7th gate of pain burns the blood. The 8th gate of death burns the soul. The taste is indeed not bad. Wang Kai muttered in a hoarse voice. His eyes were red and veins popped out all over his body. The red and black streams of air circled around him, and he looked as terrifying as a demon. The red streams of air were caused by the burning of his bloodline. The black streams of air were caused by the burning of his soul. Why did you use such a method of suicide? Liu Yao's expression changed drastically. Her voice was no longer cold, but filled with anger. Wang Kai's expression was indifferent. He placed his hands behind his back and laughed in a hoarse voice. As a man, I can't even protect my own woman. If I have to stand behind a woman for everything, then I'm not Wang Kai. Man, when it's time to show off, you can't be weak. Chapter 95. An ignorant mortal who dares to burn his bloodline and soul power. White Dragon, you don't need to fight with him. Just avoid him. Grandma Nine Dragons snorted coldly, but there was joy in her eyes. Once a warrior burned his bloodline and soul power, it meant that he was not far from death. Now, all they needed to do was to stall Wang Kai until he burned his bloodline and soul power. Then, they could kill him on the spot. Hearing this, White Dragon nodded slightly. He jumped up and stepped on the head of the Thunder Dragon. He looked down at Wang Kai and said, Although I admire your courage and want to fight with you fairly, I'm sorry. I can't disobey my master's order. Sizzle. Crack. The Thunder Dragon appeared high up in the sky, and its 1,000-meter-long body instantly turned into a purple-white bolt of lightning that shot into the distance. It was incomparably fast in the blink of an eye. Cough, cough. You admire Ben Sheo's courage. Ben Shao also admires your honesty. You ran so far away. Even if Ben Shao had the ability to kill you, he would be too lazy to chase you. Wang Kai shrugged indifferently and gave a playful smile. Position swap. Whoosh, whoosh. Wang Kai's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already 10 meters away. This cycle repeated itself, appearing and disappearing in the sky like a phantom, and then disappearing again. And the direction he went was the area where Li Lingxian and Black Tiger were fighting. One origin sword. One sword to the underworld. Whoosh. Suddenly, Wang Kai's figure appeared. He held the netherworld sword in his hand. Battle chi covered the sword and stabbed out like a lightsaber. There was an ear-piercing, buzzing sound from the friction between the long sword and the air. A cyan sword light condensed from battle chi immediately rushed out for where the netherworld sword was pointing. Its target was Black Tiger. Hee, it seems that you still remember me. Li Lingxian covered her face and giggled. She waved her jade-like hands and put away the purple veil. Then, she tapped her feet and quickly retreated. Seeing this, Black Tiger's pupil shrank. He was about to chase after Li Lingxian, but he suddenly felt a chill on his back. He was so scared that his face changed abruptly. He quickly waved his two long sabers and turned around a block in front of him. Ding-dang. Crack. Puff. The cyan sword light struck the two sabers. In the blink of an eye, the two sabers exploded into pieces. However, the cyan sword light did not lose momentum and directly pierced through the Black Tiger's chest. Blood splattered high up in the sky. Blood flowed down from the corner of Black Tiger's mouth. He lowered his head and looked fiercely at the bloody hole in his chest. When he raised his head again to look at Wang Kai, his face was filled with rage as he shouted hoarsely, "Despicable! Whoosh!" The Black Tiger's body twitched a few times, and it could no longer maintain its ability to step on air. Its figure fell from the sky like a meteor. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a rank 7 Martial King. 6,000 experience gained. After hearing the system notification, Wang Kai's face paled. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He quickly raised his hand to wipe away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He grinned evilly and said, "One origin sword, the path gives birth to one. One gives birth to two. Two gives birth to three. Three gives birth to all living things. One sword to the underworld. It seems that with my current martial realm, I can only slash out 2 times at most. If I don't open the 8 inner hidden gates, just one slash is enough to completely exhaust my battle chi. If his battle chi was completely exhausted, the price would be that he would have no strength to even truss a chicken. He would be at the mercy of the enemy. Although there was a system that could use the bragging points to recover, in the midst of battle, even if there was a mistake for even a second, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. It's best to use this one origin sword less in the future. It's not inferior to the burning blood and burning soul of the 8 inner hidden gates. Wang Kai thought to himself. He raised his eyes and looked at the purple-white lightning that was rushing towards him. He couldn't help but make a mocking smile. Wang Kai, how can you be so despicable? I just respected your extraordinary courage, but I didn't expect you to sneak attack junior brother Black Tiger, who was concentrating on the battle. Crackle, roar, roar, roar. Thousands of thunder dragons appeared in the sky. The white dragon stood on top of the thunder dragons with a livid expression. The thunder dragons were also furious. They opened their mouths and roared again and again. Are you an idiot? You obviously listened to the old witch's order to exhaust me to death with your speed advantage. Do you think Ben Shao would be as stupid as you to chase after you? Wang Kai sneered with a contemptuous expression. As soon as this remark came out, the white dragon was stunned and speechless for a while. Indeed, he was the one who was despicable first. Now that he had been schemed against by Wang Kai, how could he be reasonable? Bastard! How dare a mere mortal insult me again and again? Even if I can't kill you, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of Ford. Watch out for my crutch. Granny Nine Dragons shouted angrily. She suddenly raised her dragon head walking stick, and a powerful pressure swept out. Just as she was about to press down on the dragon head walking stick, a clanking sound was heard, and the dragon head walking stick was stopped in midair. Don't forget that your opponent is me. Lu Baiyu chuckled. Her figure suddenly appeared in front of Granny Nine Dragons. She lifted her foot slightly and blocked the end of the walking stick. Buzz! A terrifying cyan battle chi ripple in the shape of a circle spread out around the two of them. Wherever it passed, the space trembled and sizzled. Old witch, I didn't expect you to be so shameless. Although Ben Xiao's realm is not as high as yours. One day in the future, Ben Xiao will step into Wuzhou and trample on your so-called dignity of the Lu family. Wang Kai sneered. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 1,000 experience and bragging points by 1 point. Bastard! White Dragon, quickly kill this man. Granny Nine Dragons was trembling with anger. However, she was blocked by Lu Baiyu and could not hurt Wang Kai at all. Kill me? Haha, it seems that you are angry from embarrassment. It's not that Ben Xiao wants to boast, but your two disciples want to fight with Ben Xiao. The hope is really slim. Wang Kai sneered disdainfully. Crackle. In an instant, White Dragon jumped down from the sky and gathered battle chi on the white spear in his hand. He aimed at Wang Kai's head and chopped down. Roar! Roar! The 1,000-meter-long Thunder Dragon followed closely behind. It rolled its body and lightning flashed. The dragon's tail swept toward the Dharma power above Wang Kai's head. The last sword. One origin, one sword to the underworld. Buzz. Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. He stood in the sky and did not dodge. Instead, he raised the netherworld sword and thrust it upward. The Dharma power floating above his head also did the same thing as Wang Kai. It held a sword condensed from battle chi and thrust it toward the incoming Thunder Dragon. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two huge cyan sword rays instantly condensed. One slashed toward White Dragon, and the other slashed toward the Thunder Dragon Dharma power. Snap! Poof! Roar! 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 Endless sounds could be heard. White Dragon's spear broke into two, and its body was also pierced into two halves. The Thunder Dragon in the sky also suffered the same fate. Its 1,000-meter-long body was cut into two halves and fell from the sky. In the end, it turned into cyan battle chi and disappeared. As for White Dragon, blood flowed out. The two halves of its body fell to the ground and turned into minced meat. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a rank 7 Martial King. You have gained 6,000 experience. Chapter 96. Wang Kai's face was as white as paper. He felt a sweet taste in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. His vision became blurry and his body swayed. Finally, he lost the ability to step on air and fell from the sky. Opening the 8 inner hidden gates and using the 1 origin sword caused his body to exceed the limit of what he could bear. You've been caught in a trap of your own making. I've said it before. In such a barren land like Fan Province, martial artists don't know what cultivation is. They only use self-destructive moves to gain a temporary victory. Ignorant and stupid. Grandma Nine Dragons coldly snorted. Lu Baiyu, the owner of the White Jade Inn, heard this and squinted at the falling Wang Kai. Her eyes flashed, and she said indifferently, Ling Xian, bring young Master Kai back and heal him. Li Ling Xian frowned and looked at Lu Baiyu in surprise. She moved to meet Wang Kai. At the same time, she was puzzled. Why would Master help Wang Kai like this? Wasn't it because Crown Prince Wan Kong used the Emperor Fan token in exchange for Grandma Nine Dragon's help? Get out of the way. Lu Yao's face was ashen, and she was furious. She coldly scolded, then passed by Li Ling Xian and rushed toward the falling Wang Kai. Since Master has ordered, how can Ling Xian disobey? Leave it to Ling Xian. Li Ling Xian's beautiful eyes blinked, and she laughed mockingly. Then, she activated her battle chi and increased her speed as she swooped down. Host, checking your blood and soul, there's not much left. Your body's injuries are critical. You need to recover as soon as possible. Wang Kai's mind was a bit blurry and the notifications were intermittent. However, he still understood the system's meaning. His voice was hoarse, and he spoke with great effort. Recover. Completely recover. Host, to recover your burned blood and soul. With your current martial arts realm, you need 10 bragging points. Host, to recover your burned blood and soul. With your current martial arts realm, you need 10 bragging points. Host, to recover from the injuries caused by the burning of the soul and bloodline, 10 bragging points are required. Bang! Bang! Before Wang Kai could agree to recover, his body was grabbed by Lu Yao and Li Lingxian. One of them grabbed his shoulders, and the other grabbed his legs. The two of them immediately began to struggle in the air. Hiss! Wang Kai was in so much pain that his muscles were twitching. He sucked in a breath of cold air. Although it was a very happy thing to be fought over by two beauties, now was definitely not the time to do this. If this continued, Bin Xiao's life would be over. Quick recover. Wang Kai used the last of his strength to shout. Congratulations to the host for successfully recovering your bloodline and soul power. 20 bragging points have been consumed. Congratulations to host for successfully recovering from your injuries. 10 bragging points have been consumed. Whoosh! After recovering from his injuries, Wang Kai immediately shook his body and broke free from the two women's fight. He flew to the distant void and stared at them speechlessly. He yelled in exasperation, "What are you doing? Have you never seen a man before? How can you fight like this? Don't you know that Bin Xiao is injured? If you continue to fight, Bin Xiao will really become a corpse. Moreover, with Bin Xiao's amazing talent, how could he die so easily? I was just doing it on purpose just now to make that old witch happy." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. He's fine. However, Lu Yao and Li Lingxian were stunned. Granny Nine Dragons and Lu Baiyu, who were far away, were also stunned. It was as if they had seen an impossible miracle. He was still fine after burning his bloodline and soul power. When the world could cause him harm. The foundation of a human martial artist's survival was his bloodline and soul power. Bin Xiao is a genius. Not to mention the bloodline and soul power. He even has thousands of internal organs. If you want, Bin Xiao can grab 1 or 2 at any time. Wang Kai smiled calmly and placed his hands behind his back. His face was full of arrogance. The previous weak state had completely disappeared and was replaced by a strong aura. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Bastard. What a bastard. How can I let an ordinary person like you ruin my plans? Grandma Nine Dragons flew into a rage, and her figure suddenly disappeared. Whoosh! Upon seeing this, Lu Baiyu frowned slightly. Her figure also disappeared and appeared beside Wang Kai in the blink of an eye. So her goal is the Tower of Babel. Is this her last trump card? Lu Baiyu smiled. She had thought that Granny Nine Dragons would take the opportunity to deal with Wang Kai. However, that was not the case. Even though the situation was chaotic, Granny Nine Dragons still had no intention of attacking Wang Kai. At this moment, the originally golden tower had completely transformed into a blood-red tower. Seeing this, Wang Kai's pupils abruptly contracted, and he hurriedly lowered his head to look at the battlefield below. Is that the Grand Marshal of the Tianwu dynasty? He is actually on par with the old master. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and muttered. The 200,000 Wang Shuai's army, led by the old man, was currently clashing with an army of several 100,000 led by an old man. Both sides had over 20 martial kings. Together with the 7 generals of the Wang Shuai's army, they were currently locked in a stalemate. The 200,000 Grand Marshal's army was also blocked by the Tianwu dynasty's Grand Marshal's army. Both sides were evenly matched. If the two armies wanted to determine the victor, it would be a battle of time and patience. The last battle with the Zhongwu dynasty was also like this. As one of the 3 great dynasties of Fan Province, they naturally have a strong foundation. However, don't worry. In terms of patience, the Grand Marshal's army is definitely the best, Lu Yao said coldly. Wang Kai nodded. He did not know much about the War of the Gods from 50 years ago. As the daughter of the Imperial Advisor's residence, Lu Yao was well-versed in both literature and martial arts. It was reasonable for her to know about this. The Tower of Babel has absorbed enough blood to reach its saturation point. I think it will soon return to its Emperor Realm level. If Granny Nine Dragons takes the tower for her own use, even I will not be able to deal with her, Lu Baiyu said softly. Since you know this, why don't you go and stop her? Don't worry about Ben Xiao. People say that a cat has 9 lives. Ben Xiao has thousands of lives. A mere old witch can't do anything to Ben Xiao. Wang Kai quickly bragged. He was afraid that Granny Nine Dragons would really defeat Granny Nine Dragons. Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Lu Baiyu shook her head and smiled. It's too late. Granny Nine Dragons has already entered the Tower of Babel. As for me, if I enter now, I will be attacked by her full strength. The chances of me being defeated are very high. Chapter 97. Master probably wants to use the power of the Tower of Babel to reverse the defeat of the Tianwu dynasty. Lu Yao frowned and said coldly. The Tower of Babel had been restored to the Emperor Realm after devouring the blood of the armies of the 2 dynasties. Above the King Realm was the Emperor Realm. After the Emperor Realm was the Emperor Realm. Even though Emperor Fan could use his supreme martial way to seal the martial way realms of all living beings in Fan State, the weapon itself was the Emperor Realm. Even if it couldn't display its original power, it could still crush any martial king. Similarly, the original realm of an outsider was beyond the martial king realm. Naturally, their physical body was stronger than any martial king in Fan State. This was why the native warriors were inferior to the outsider warriors. However, if an outsider wielded an emperor weapon and fought with an outsider expert, the former would have a higher chance of winning. That's right. If Granny Nine Dragons successfully controls the Tong Tian Tower, then even if Uncle Fu and I join forces, we can only be evenly matched with her. However, if we want to protect others, it will be difficult, Lu Baiyu said calmly. The 2 of them could only be evenly matched with Grandma Nine Dragons who wielded the Tower of Babel. Moreover, they couldn't protect others in battle. Wang Kai frowned when he heard this, and suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He narrowed his eyes and sneered. Does she really want to kill me here? I don't think so. If you die, it will implicate Emperor Fu's anger. Although the Lu family of Wu State doesn't fear Emperor Fu, they don't want to provoke the anger of an emperor. Lu Baiyu shook her head and smiled. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. So, she wants to use the Tower of Babel to keep you in check and destroy all the experts of the Tianwu dynasty. That's right. If she has the Tower of Babel, I won't be able to keep her in check. At that time, the experts of the Tianwu dynasty and the army will all be destroyed by her in an instant. Lu Baiyu nodded lightly. The Tower of Babel was so awesome. Wang Kai suddenly had a strange feeling. He looked at Lu Baiyu with disdain and snorted. Since you were so powerful outside of Fan State, why didn't you bring a few powerful weapons like the Tower of Babel with you when you came here? Hee, Emperor Fan forbids it. The reason why the Sky Split Tower was able to enter the Fan Prefecture was because it was not even a Grandmaster weapon. Furthermore, the Heaven-Reaching Tower was originally an Emperor artifact. To have the guts to destroy an Emperor artifact in perfect condition and bring it back to Fan Province, it's truly a waste. Furthermore, whether or not it can be repaired in Fan Province is still a question. Lu Baiyu shook her head in amusement. Wang Kai's expression froze when he heard this. He smacked his lips and thought that this was indeed the case. Such a powerful treasure, who would be willing to destroy it and bring it to a barren place like Fan Province? In the eyes of the outside world, no one was willing to come to the Fan Province. How could they enter at the cost of destroying an emperor weapon? Big stupid cat, are you still alive? Wang Kai frowned and secretly urged his mind to communicate with it through the bloodline contract. Wang Kai brat, you've really screwed me over. You actually let that old witch in." The cat's flustered and exasperated voice rang in Wang Kai's mind. Wang Kai's expression froze. He did not expect the big stupid cat to be unable to defeat Grandma Nine Dragons. He hurriedly asked, "Shouldn't the Sky Split Tower only be accessible to the younger generation? Don't tell Ben Xiao that Grandma Nine Dragons is still a young lady in her late 20s. The Sky Split Tower has just been restored to the ranks of Emperor weapons. If it is not held by an Emperor Realm expert, it naturally cannot withstand the invasion of an Emperor Realm expert. Even though that old witch's Emperor Realm martial path has been suppressed to the Martial King Realm, her physical body, soul, and bloodline are all at the Emperor Realm. To be able to enter the Sky Split Tower would be a piece of cake." The cat shouted angrily. "What about the spiritual pill? You intentionally let him into the Sky Split Tower. Have you killed him?" Wang Kai frowned and asked. However, no matter how hard Wang Kai tried to communicate, the cat did not reply. If it were not for the fact that he could feel that the big stupid cat was still alive through the power of the bloodline contract, he would have thought that he had been subdued by Grandma Nine Dragons. "Oomph, it's fine if you don't say it. Ben Xiao thinks that you can't bear to kill spiritual pill, right? No matter what, he was your favorite disciple in the past. However, it's a pity that Ling Shu is still waiting in the dark for an opportunity to deal the fatal blow to spiritual pill." Wang Kai sneered coldly. "Bastard, I just don't want to kill him for the time being. You let the outsider outside enter the Sky Split Tower first, and help me defeat the old witch. If the old witch really takes control of the Sky Split Tower, other than Emperor Fan, no one in the Fan Prefecture will be able to defeat her." The cat shouted anxiously. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and passed the cat's words to Lu Baiyu, who was beside him. "He, the Illusion Emperor, the Cat Demon Emperor from the Demon Prefecture? Since he has a way to defeat Grandma Nine Dragons, I'm willing to enter." Lu Baiyu smiled lightly and did not reject Wang Kai's suggestion. Instead, she turned into a ray of light and entered the Sky Split Tower. "Big stupid cat, you better not lose. If you really let that old witch have her way, this young master will definitely spread the news that you were framed by your beloved disciple." Wang Kai sneered as he sent a voice transmission to the old witch. If he did not provoke the big stupid cat, he might really let go of spiritual pill. "Wang Kai, it doesn't matter if my master succeeds or not. We just need to end this battle first," Lu Yao said coldly. Wang Kai nodded lightly and looked at the 3 battlefields with a playful expression. One of them was the old man's army fighting against the Tianwu dynasty's army. The other was the Tianwu dynasty's army led by the Crown Prince and Yuan Hao. They were fighting against the Tianwu dynasty's Crown Prince, Tuoba Lai. The last one was Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty, sky-suppressing king, Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty, and Tuoba Kuang of the Tianwu dynasty. "Go and help the old man. Old Imperial Tutor Lu is also there. Leave Sky-suppressing king to me. I've said before that I will beat up Sky-suppressing king. It's time for me to fulfill my promise." Wang Kai smiled indifferently and placed his hands behind his back. With a light tap of his feet, he flashed towards Sky-suppressing king. Lu Yao nodded lightly and waved her hand. A long sword appeared in her hand, and she swooped down from the sky with her white dress fluttering. "Sky-suppressing king, Ben Xiao is here to beat you up. Quickly show me your neck and let this young master have it in my hands." Swoosh! Wang Kai walked in the air with his hands behind his back. A cosmic form floated above his head, and his voice rumbled like thunder. "Martial King! Bang! Bang bang!" Sky-suppressing king and Tuoba Kuang's pupils constricted when they saw this. They quickly worked together to push back Wang Shang and Wan Batian of the Tianwu dynasty. They looked coldly at Wang Kai. The 3 of them had clearly seen how Wang Kai had killed 2 upper-grade martial kings with a single strike. Now that he was here, they were instantly on their guard. "Haha, good timing. Nephew Wang Kai, let's kill these 2 people together." Wan Batian laughed maniacally, and his expression was carefree. Sky-suppressing king and Tuoba Kuang's eyes hardened when they heard this. They scolded almost simultaneously. "Wan Batian, to think that you're Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty. How dare you invite a junior to help you? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. His face immediately darkened, and he said angrily, Wan Batian. TSK, TSK. Such a domineering name. Bin Xiao has long wanted to meet you. However, now is not the time to talk about this. You'd better step aside for now. Bin Xiao can at most not beat you up. Chapter 98. Wan Beixian's expression turned cold when he heard this. However, when he thought about Wang Kai's current martial realm, he could only snort coldly in his heart. He retreated to the distant void with an ugly expression and smiled stiffly. Since nephew Wang Kai is so interested in fighting 1 against 2, this king will naturally grant you your wish. It's also a good opportunity to witness the rise of the Divine Martial Dynasty's future Grand Marshal. Rise of the Divine Martial Dynasty? Bin Xiao has always been rising, okay? In a land of Fan Province, only Bin Xiao reigns supreme. Who doesn't know this? Who doesn't know? Wan Batian, you better shut up for Bin Xiao now. If Bin Xiao can't control himself, the throne of the Divine Martial Dynasty will really change hands. Wang Kai coldly snorted with disdain. In his heart, he wanted to see just how good Wang Shang could control himself. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 boasting point. Wan Beixian's eyes immediately turned cold when he heard this. As the dynasty's Wang Shang, he was actually being reprimanded by a junior. However, when he thought about the current situation, he did not flare up in the end. Instead, he lightly nodded his head and did not say anything else. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes when he saw this and sighed regretfully in his heart. He had originally wanted to kill Wan Batian as well, but now it seemed impossible. He could only secretly hope that Prince Wan Kong would not provoke him again. Otherwise, he would not let him off so easily next time. After all, Prince Wan Kong was not on good terms with him. If Fan Province was unified, the Divine Martial Dynasty's confidence would inevitably increase, and they would do something unfavorable to the Marshal's residence. Even if the Marshal's residence was not afraid, Wang Kai did not want this to happen. Any potential threat could be eliminated, but could not be left alive. Tuoba Kuang, Sky-Suppressing King, come at me together, Wang Kai calmly said with his hands behind his back. Swish! Whoosh! However, the Heavenly King, Suppressing King, and Tuoba Kuang didn't hesitate at all. They chose to split up and escape. They had no intention of fighting with Wang Kai at all. Even a rank 7 Martial King was killed by Wang Kai with a single sword strike. Thus, how could a rank 3 Martial King possibly fight against him? Could it be that the Martial King realm experts recently all liked the game of eagle catching chicks? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and rolled his eyes speechlessly. Suddenly, he took out 2 Yuan Qi bombs and flicked them in 2 different directions. Whoosh! Whoosh! Bang! Bang! The Heavenly King, Suppressing King, and Tuoba Kuang's left legs were pierced through. Blood spurted out, causing their fleeing figures to suddenly stop. They lost their balance and fell from the sky. Although those 2 Yuan Qi bombs only have the power of a rank 9 Martial Great Master, with Bin Xiao's Martial King Battle Qi, it's enough to injure a Martial King. However, if he wants to kill them, it's still a bit difficult. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. With a light tap of his feet, he immediately rushed towards the Heavenly King, Suppressing King. Seeing this, Wan Beixian's eyes twitched. He was secretly glad that he didn't provoke Wang Kai. Otherwise, with his current cultivation, even a battle would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Damn it! Why is this Wang Kai breaking through so quickly? Wan Beixian's eyes were cold. Bang! Bang bang! In the void far away, Wang Kai grabbed the Heavenly King, Suppressing King's neck and raised it up high. With an indifferent expression, he waved his fists and punched the Heavenly King, Suppressing King's back and waist. Bin Xiao once said that he would beat you up one day. However, I didn't expect it to come so quickly. Sigh, it's because Bin Xiao's talent is too monstrous. In today's world, there are simply too few people who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Bin Xiao. It's better to say that there isn't one. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. He punched the heavenly king-suppressing king again and again until his face turned pale and he spat out blood. It was very miserable. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 1,000 experience and bragging point. Back then on the Shinwu Academy's battle stage, Bin Xiao also beat up your good son Wanja like this. TSK, how does it feel? It should be pretty good, right? Wang Kai said with a smile. Bang, bang, bang. Poof. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a rank 3 martial king. You've received 2,000 experience. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai was startled. He looked at the heavenly king-suppressing king's back that had been punched through. He couldn't help but raise his bloodied hand and wipe it on the heavenly king-suppressing king's clothes. He curled his lips and coldly snorted. You really can't take a beating. You're even weaker than your son. What he didn't know was that with Wang Kai's current cultivation, although he was only a rank 1 martial king, he had the power to kill enemies that surpassed rank 5 martial kings. The difference of 1 rank was like the difference between heaven and earth. It would be extremely difficult for him to take a few more punches from a full 5 ranks. The heavenly king-suppressing king is dead. Right now, there's only Wang Shang from the Tianwu dynasty left. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. He flipped his hand and threw the heavenly king-suppressing king's corpse down from the sky. Then, he turned and chased after Tuoba Kuang. Within a mountain forest, Wang Kai floated down. He frowned and looked at the bloodstains on the ground. With a rather mocking expression, he said, Tuoba Kuang, you can't escape. Come out quickly. Bin Xiao can spare your life. However, you have to do one thing for Bin Xiao. However, there was no response from the mountain forest. Seeing this, Wang Kai shrugged. With his hand behind his back, he smiled and said, if Bin Xiao uses his cosmic form to destroy this entire mountain forest, Tuoba Kuang, do you have the ability to survive? Whoosh. Right after he finished speaking, Tuoba Kuang appeared. He limped over and snorted with a ferocious expression. Wang Kai, I didn't expect you to have such achievements at such a young age. I'm inferior to you. If you want to kill me, do as you please. Hearing this, Wang Kai looked at him with disdain. With his hands behind his back, he said with disdain, all right, there's no need to put on a brave front. There are no beauties here for you to show off. If you're really not afraid of death, why did you come out in fear? Wang Kai, what do you want me to do? Tuoba Kuang asked coldly. It's very simple. Kill Wang Shang of the divine martial empire. Crown Prince Wang Kong cannot survive either. If you can do that, Bin Xiao will naturally spare your life. Wang Kai said with a smile. Whoosh. As soon as these words came out, Tuoba Kuang was startled. He immediately grinned and said, this king originally thought that heaven-suppressing king was ruthless and sinister, but I didn't expect that the truly sinister person was actually you. Later, Bin Xiao will secretly use some method to injure Wan Batian. At that time, you can take the opportunity to kill him. If you fail, you will definitely die. Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile. Tuoba Kuang smiled sinisterly when he heard this. His eyes flickered as he said, how can I believe that you won't burn the bridge after crossing it? With your ability to kill a superior grade martial king in one move, if you go back on your words, I am not confident that I can survive under your hands. You don't have a choice. If you don't agree, you will die now. Wang Kai said with a cold smile as he looked at Tuoba Kuang with a cold glint in his eyes. Thud, thud, thud. When Tuoba Kuang saw the killing intent in Wang Kai's eyes, he was so frightened that his face turned pale. He could not help but take a few steps back. He gritted his teeth and said, I hope you can keep your word. You don't have to worry about that. Bin Xiao doesn't have any other good points, but he values promises the most. Wang Kai said with a smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience and 1 bragging point. Thank you to the friends who voted for me. I rarely ask for votes here because I'm afraid that it will affect your reading mood. However, you still took the initiative to vote for me. I'm truly grateful. Chapter 99. Under the leadership of the old man and the assistance of Liu Yao, the 200,000 royal generals easily defeated the remaining troops of the Tianwu dynasty. Together with the remaining troops of the Tianwu dynasty, there were a total of 500,000 soldiers on the battlefield. In this battle, the Tianwu dynasty suffered a crushing defeat. More than half of Marshal Tuoba's million-strong army was wiped out. The remaining troops either escaped or were injured. They had already retreated back to the Tianwu dynasty. However, what awaited them was still the pursuit of the Tianwu dynasty's army. The Tianwu dynasty had unified the Fan province, and the outcome was already decided. Tianwu dynasty's crown prince, Wan Kong, Tuoba Lai, will not submit to you. If not for the help of others, you won't even be 1/10 of Tuoba Lai's strength. Tianwu dynasty's army numbered in the hundreds of thousands, and Crown Prince, Tuoba Lai, was among them. At this moment, his body was wrapped in pitch-black chains. He was half kneeling on the ground as he cursed at Wan Kong with a ferocious expression. Impudent! Bang! Seeing this, a soldier angrily scolded and kicked Tuoba Lai to the ground. However, Tuoba Lai still held his head high. His face was covered in dirt and blood, and his sinister smile was extremely terrifying. Tianwu dynasty's crown prince, Wan Kong, is trash. Huh, you're not even comparable to me, Tuoba Lai. Tuoba Lai laughed maniacally. You're courting death, stop. Just as the soldier was about to swing his long blade, Crown Prince, Wan Kong, waved his hand and stopped him. He quickly walked forward and looked down at Tuoba Lai. He coldly said, Do you want to have a fair fight with me in exchange for a chance to live? That's right. I, Tuoba Lai, am a #1 young expert in the Tianwu dynasty. The Tuoba family lives on war. Although we lost to the Tianwu dynasty today, we didn't lose to your Wan family's authority. If you dare to fight with me, Tuoba Lai, I'll definitely cut off your dog head. Tuoba Lai laughed sinisterly. Their insults and disdainful expressions caused many of the soldiers to feel anger in their hearts. Your Highness, so what if we fight him? A soldier couldn't help but shout. Fight! 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 In an instant, many soldiers raised their spears and shouted in unison, full of the might of soldiers. Your Highness, now is the best time to display your might. Tuoba Lai is right. The one who truly defeated the Tianwu Empire should be Wang Kai and his 200,000 Wang Kai army. Even Liu Yao is engaged to Wang Kai. If this continues, I'm afraid that the throne will be in danger. Yuan Hao softly transmitted. Prince Wan Kong narrowed his eyes and replied coldly. So what? Could it be that the Wang clan dares to rebel? Your Highness, it's not that the Wang clan doesn't dare. If the Wang clan really intends to rebel, the divine martial dynasty will definitely be replaced. Plus, once the war is settled, the Fan province will be unified. Such a great temptation, no one can resist it. With Heavenly King suppressing King as an example. Don't make the same mistake again. Yuan Hao transmitted his voice. The Heavenly King suppression was the brother of Wang Shang of the divine martial dynasty. Yet, he was able to rebel at the crucial moment of the war between the two dynasties. Prince Wan Kong's expression was extremely cold. Indeed, the Wang clan was too powerful. They had been powerful since the beginning and were still powerful even now. Furthermore, they even had Wang Kai who could kill a high-rank martial king. If it was before, it would be fine. Due to the agreement with Emperor Fan, Uncle Fu couldn't act as he pleased. With Marshal Wang's rank 3 martial king cultivation, even with the 200,000 Wang generals, it would be extremely difficult to overthrow the divine martial dynasty. However, now, Wang Kai could kill a high-rank martial king by himself. Even Wang Shang of the divine martial dynasty was no match for him. If the Wang clan rebelled, there was no need for Uncle Fu to act. They could easily unify the Fan province. Thinking of that, a strong sense of danger surged into his heart. Prince Wan Kong's expression became even colder. He clenched his teeth and transmitted, If the Wang clan truly wants to rebel, what can I do even if I defeat Tuoba Lai? Your Highness, the ruler of the world needs the hearts of the people. If your highness can obtain the hearts of the army here, you can lead the army to unify the Tianwu dynasty and treat the defeated army and commoners of the Tianwu dynasty well. The real crime of murder was committed by the Wang clan. Yuan Hao sneered and transmitted. Prince Wangkong was startled when he heard that. Joy immediately appeared in his eyes. Indeed, the Wang clan defeated the Tianwu dynasty, and Wang Kai annihilated the Tianwu dynasty's army of several 100,000 with a flick of his finger. Such cruel methods would definitely cause the Tianwu dynasty to resent him. As a member of the royal family, he could pacify the people and push the crime of murder onto the Wang clan. Whoever wins the people's hearts wins the world. Your Highness, even if the Wang clan rebelled, they would definitely be condemned by the people. The Wang clan's royal power would be even stronger. I'm afraid that Emperor Fan will also stand on our side. Yuan Hao transmitted. Prince Wangkong nodded his head and looked coldly at Tuoba Lai. He suddenly waved his arms and shouted, Tuoba Lai, since you want to fight, I will grant your wish. Soldiers, please release him. Yes, Your Highness. Fight, fight, fight. In an instant, several 100,000 soldiers of the Tianwu dynasty shouted in unison. Even Wang Shuai's army cheered. They had long been displeased with Tuoba Lai's arrogant insults to the Tianwu dynasty. Now that Wang Kong had accepted the challenge, they naturally supported him wholeheartedly. Hee, Prince Wang Kong, I didn't expect you to have such guts. However, I'm afraid your plan will fail. Tuoba Lai grinned hideously and tore off the tiger skin on his body, revealing his strong and bulging muscles. Buzz, rumble, an invisible force formed around Tuoba Lai's body. At the same time, his aura surged violently. Oh no, he is about to break through to the Martial King realm. Your Highness, quickly kill him. Yuan Hao's face changed, and he quickly transmitted his voice to remind Prince Wangkong. Prince Wangkong's eyes narrowed. How could he not see that Tuoba Lai was about to break through to the Martial King realm? Even the countless soldiers around them could see the trick. If they attacked now, wouldn't they be a laughingstock? Your Highness, Tuoba Lai hid his strength. It should have been a fair fight, but he took the opportunity to break through to the Martial King realm. This is a despicable act. Your Highness, please kill him. Yuan Hao's eyes flickered. Naturally, he could see that the Crown Prince was in a difficult position. He spoke bluntly, and his voice reverberated throughout the battlefield. Many soldiers were stunned by Yuan Hao's words. However, they agreed with Yuan Hao's words. Prince Wangkong and Tuoba Lai were both 9th grade martial grandmasters. This was a fair fight. If they hid their strength and broke through to the Martial King realm, it would be unfair. Kill him! Kill! 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 Many of the soldiers immediately shouted. However, when the Wangkong Crown Prince was secretly delighted and was about to attack, a voice rang out in his mind. Kong, there's no need to do this. When he successfully breaks through to the Martial King realm, I will help him secretly. This way, the Wan family's prestige will rise. When the time comes, I will let you lead the army. The Marshal's mansion is so powerful that the Wan family is no match for it. We can only balance it with the hearts of the soldiers. When Wan Kong heard this, he was even more delighted. He glanced around and saw Wan Batian in the void. It seemed that his father was also suspicious of the Marshal's mansion. However, this was exactly what he wanted. He waved his arms and said heroically, there's no need to do this. When he successfully breaks through to the Martial King realm, it won't be too late for me to kill him. Chapter 100. Long live the Crown Prince. Long live the Crown Prince. In an instant, the army was led by Prince Wangkong. They raised their spears and cheered. They were willing to wait for Tuoba Lai to break through to the Martial King realm. His magnanimity and confidence won the hearts of all the soldiers. Crown Prince, why are you doing this? Are you going to break through to the Martial King realm? Yuan Hao asked with a frown. Prince Wangkong shook his head and replied confidently, Don't worry. Father will help me in secret. When To'obalai breaks through to the martial king realm, he would not be a match for me. I see. That's great. I wish the Crown Prince a great success in unifying Fan Province. Yuan Hao was overjoyed. He quickly sent a message to congratulate Crown Prince Wonkong. Crown Prince Wonkong's smile widened. Whoosh! Tuobalai's surging aura suddenly stopped. He casually waved his hand and grabbed a soldier's spear. With a ferocious smile, he threw the spear into the air and shouted, "Heavy divine spear." As the huge spear appeared above his head, a strong and oppressive aura suddenly descended. The Tuoba royal family's inherited cultivation method, heaven and earth dharma power, heavy divine spear. Wonkong, I thought you would use this opportunity to stop me from breaking through to the martial king realm. I didn't expect you to be so brave. Tuobalai laughed ferociously. The veins on his body were bulging, and he looked terrifying. Wonkong's expression was full of disdain. He pulled out the long sword at his waist and pointed it at Tuobalai. He shouted, "Tuobalai, I am willing to accept you as my subordinate because you are brave and good at fighting. What do you think?" Bang! Bang! Tuobalai licked his lips and stomped his feet. The ground trembled and he laughed ferociously. "Wonkong, today is your death anniversary. Die!" Whoosh! When Tuobalai attacked Wonkong, everyone held their breaths. They stared at Wonkong excitedly, waiting for him to defeat Tuobalai. Humph! With Imperial Father's secret help. So what if he breaks through to the martial king realm? You're just a rank one. Prince Wonkong's heart was filled with disdain. He held the long sword in his hand and stabbed out without hesitation. In the distant void, Wang Shang and Wan Batian of the divine martial dynasty stood in the air as they watched Tuoba Lai's attack. They raised their palms and were about to launch a sneak attack. However, just as they raised their arms, they were caught. All of a sudden, Wang Kai appeared beside Wan Batian and easily grabbed his wrist. Then, he loosened his grip and punched Wan Baishan's chest. Bang! Seeing this, Wan Baishan's eyes bulged, and he was forced to take a few steps back. He looked at Wang Kai in shock and snorted. "Nephew Wang Kai, what do you mean by this?" "Hee, that's enough." Wang Kai put his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. "That's enough?" Wan Batian was confused. He did not understand what Wang Kai was talking about. Or was he hinting at something? However, Wan Batian did not have time to think. He quickly looked at the place where Wonkong and Tuobalai were fighting. When he saw that Wonkong was being beaten up by Tuobalai, his face turned pale with anger. He was about to operate his battle chi to help Tuobalai secretly. Wah! The moment he operated his battle chi, Wan Baishan's face turned pale. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He could not stand in the air any longer and immediately fell down from the sky. Patter! Wang Kai flashed and supported Wan Batian in the air by waving his arms. Then, he looked at Wan Batian calmly and said with a smile, "Wan Batian, don't blame Bin Shao for being merciless. You can only blame yourself for being merciless. Bin Shao doesn't like to wait for others to plot against him. As long as he finds the slightest danger, he will choose to strike first. It's you." Wan Batian stared at Wang Kai ferociously. It was not until now that he realized that Wang Kai must have secretly used his battle chi. Otherwise, he would have been able to operate his battle chi. Wang Kai's expression was still indifferent. That punch just now was a high-level zone realm martial skill, Tremor Chi Fist. Although it looked simple and unadorned, once it hit, the target would not be able to use their battle chi for a short period of time. Wan Batian, die! Swish! Suddenly, a furious roar resounded, causing Wan Batian to be startled. He turned around abruptly and was surprised to see that Tuoba Kwong, who had fled earlier, was actually charging towards him menacingly. Cosmic form of heaven and earth, spear of heavy god. Wong. The huge spear floating above Tuoba Kwong's head suddenly chopped down, aiming at Wan Baishan's head. Goodbye. Position swap. Swish. Wang Kai disappeared immediately. Wan Batian, who had lost his support, immediately fell from the sky. He roared crazily, "Wang Kai, you puff!" Crack! However, before Juan Batian finished his words, his body had been split open by the heavy divine spear, turning into a rain of blood and bone fragments that fell from the sky. Wang Shang, damn Tuoba Quang, how dare you attack Wang Shang? Wang Kai appeared in the void in the distance. He pretended to be furious and shouted loudly. His voice spread over thousands of miles and was heard clearly by the hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Swish! Tuoba Quang's face turned pale. He glared at Wang Kai and waved his hands to control the heavy divine spear to hack at Wang Kai. You overestimate yourself. Tuoba Quang, Bin Xiao will kill you to avenge Wang Shang. Wang Kai's expression was cold. He immediately took out the netherworld sword and swept it in the air. With a crack, the heavy divine spear was smashed into pieces. Bang! Bang bang! Tuoba Lai rode on Prince Wang Kong and punched him a few more times. He stood up and grabbed Wang Kong's neck. Looking at Tuoba Quang, who appeared beside him, he quickly grinned and said, Father, it seems that we didn't lose to the royal family of the divine martial empire. At this moment, Prince Wang Kong's face was covered with bruises and wounds. His clothes were tattered and covered in dust. After being humiliated and beaten by Tuoba Lai, he was in a miserable state. His mind was in a mess. Damn it! Why? What exactly happened? Prince Wang Kong roared in his heart. He was originally full of confidence, but in the end, he was severely humiliated by Tuoba Lai. Many of the soldiers saw this. This made Prince Wang Kong feel ashamed and angry, but he didn't know how to deal with it. This Wang Kong has some guts, but he's a little stupid. He actually waited for me to successfully break through to the Martial King realm. At first, I thought that he had some ability, but who knew? He was lying on the ground without even the strength to fight back. Ha ha ha! Tuoba Lai laughed disdainfully. When these words came out, Prince Wang Kong's eyes were about to split open, especially when he saw the strange looks in the eyes of the soldiers. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. Chapter 101. I have already killed Juan Batian. Now, the divine martial dynasty is without a leader. Only the crown prince, Wang Kong, remains. He was also defeated and captured by my son. If you do not wish for the divine martial dynasty's royal bloodline to end, quickly get out of the way and let me and my son leave safely. Tuoba Quang sneered sternly. The divine martial dynasty had fallen, and the crown prince had been captured. Many of the soldiers had already heard Wang Kai's reprimand. They also remembered how Prince Wang Kong had been captured. At this moment, they tightly gripped their spears and surrounded Tuoba Quang and his son. Martial King experts, quickly retreat. Let them leave. Bin Xiao will rescue the crown prince later. Whoosh! Wang Kai floated down from the sky, expressionlessly. Everywhere he passed, the soldiers took the initiative to respectfully retreat. Regardless of whether it was the 200,000 Wang Kai's army or the remaining soldiers of the divine martial dynasty, all of them were filled with fanatical reverence for Wang Kai. In the blink of an eye, he had annihilated hundreds of thousands of enemies. In one move, he had killed a superior-grade martial king. Even the sky-suppressing king had been destroyed by him. No matter which one it was enough to make people admire him. Yes, young commander. The 200,000 Wang Kai's army immediately accepted the order and retreated in unison. When the remaining soldiers saw this, they quickly retreated as well. This caused Tuoba Quang and Tuoba Lai to inwardly sigh in relief. Wang Kai, you are very strong. I, Tuoba Lai, have never been convinced by anyone in my life. You are the first. Tuoba Lai licked his lips and smiled nastily. When Wang Kai heard this, his expression was indifferent. He placed his hand behind his back and said indifferently, Tuoba Lai, if you have the guts to fight with Ben Xiao, as long as you can survive one move from Ben Xiao, not to mention letting you and your son leave safely. Even if you want to unify the Fan province, my marshal's residence's Wang clan will not interfere. Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, Tuoba Lai was stunned. However, he quickly reacted and grinned without any shame on his face. Wang Kai, I won't fall for your trick. With your ability, even if all the martial kings here were to attack together, it would be difficult for them to survive under your hands, let alone me." Hearing this, the expressions of the army became even more interesting. On the contrary, they did not care too much about the death of Wang Shang of the divine martial empire. Instead, their respect for Wang Kai increased exponentially. Tuoba Lai had previously challenged Prince Wang Kong to a duel, but in the end, he had beaten up Prince Wang Kong and captured him. And now, when Wang Kai took the initiative to challenge him, Tuoba Lai did not even have the guts to accept the challenge. Scram! Wang Kai snorted coldly with his hands behind his back. Whoosh! Whoosh! Tuoba Kwong and Tuoba Lai deeply looked at Wang Kai, then grabbed Prince Wang Kong and left in the air. "Commander Wang, please save His Highness the Crown Prince. Otherwise, the divine martial empire will have no leader." A royal family martial king knelt down on one knee. Soon after, the other soldiers also knelt down and begged. Tuoba Kwong was a rank 3 martial king, while the martial kings present were only rank 1. Even the 7 generals of the Commander Wang's army were only rank 2 martial kings. Even if all the martial kings chased after him together, they would not be able to defeat Tuoba Kwong, a rank 3 martial king. Moreover, Tuoba Kwong still had His Highness the Crown Prince as a hostage. Hearing that, Wang Kai lightly nodded. Then, he glanced at the heaven-reaching tower in the sky. Beside it, the old man, Liu Yao, and the 7 generals of the Commander Wang's army were all present. They surrounded the heaven-reaching tower in the middle. Their expressions were alert as they entered a battle stance. "Soldiers, please be at ease. Ben Shao will definitely bring His Highness the Crown Prince back." Wang Kai indifferently smiled, then stepped into the air and disappeared into the horizon. Within a dense forest in the northern mountains, Tuoba Kwong and Tuoba Lai were both standing in the forest waiting. As for Prince Wang Kong, he was casually thrown to the ground, still unconscious. "Wang Kai, I've already completed your task. I hope you won't go back on your words," Tuoba Kwong coldly said. Whoosh! Wang Kai's figure suddenly appeared in midair. With his hands behind his back, he indifferently glanced at them and indifferently said, "Leave Fan Province." At this moment, Tuoba Lai also knew the whole story. He sincerely admired Wang Kai's ability and ruthlessness. Looking up at Wang Kai, he grinned and said, "I look forward to meeting you again in the future. Although I admire your ruthlessness, what I hate the most is being used and schemed against. If your martial skills are not as good as mine in the future, don't blame me for being ruthless." Without any hesitation, Tuoba Kwong and Tuoba Lai directly rose into the air and disappeared. They did not take any precautions against Wang Kai, because they knew very well that if Wang Kai wanted to kill them, even if they were on guard, it would be useless. "Yuan Hao, can you come out now?" Wang Kai said with a playful smile. With his hands behind his back, his figure slowly floated to Prince Wang Kong's side. Whoosh! "Wang Kai, I didn't think that all of this was part of your plan." Yuan Hao walked out of the dense forest with an ashen face. His eyes were filled with indignation and anger. As a descendant of the Grand Chancellor's residence, he specialized in the art of governance. Although his military strategy was not as good as the imperial advisor's Liu family, he was still considered a rare genius in Fan Province. But today he had been schemed against by Wang Kai, who only knew how to boast. Even when he had succeeded, he still did not realize it. Such a deep sense of defeat made Yuan Hao extremely angry. Haha, Yuan Hao, you may not understand the martial world. In this world, the weak are prey to the strong. All schemes must be carried out with equal ability. If you are not strong enough and do not have many trump cards, no matter how smart you are destined to fail in the end. Wang Kai said indifferently with a smile. Yuan Hao was stunned when he heard this. His expression was ugly as he gritted his teeth and said, "Are you praising yourself for being strong enough and having many trump cards?" That's right. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. History will always be recorded by the winner. Ben Shao is strong enough. so he can threaten Tuoba Kwong to become Bencheo's chess piece. The strength of a rank 3 martial king is one of the strongest in Fan Province. With such trump cards and Bencheo's ability to easily injure Juan Batian, do you think he still has a way out? What's more, a mere crown prince Wang Kong first class. Haha, this young master has never taken him seriously from the start. After Wang Kai finished speaking, Yuan Hao had already sunk into silence. Indeed, even though he had thousands of schemes, he did not have any trump cards that he could use. It was because he did not have any trump cards that could suppress the Marshal's Wang family that he chose to use the people's hearts as a method to keep them in check. But in the end, under Wang Kai's absolute strength, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. You said all this because you don't plan to leave anyone alive, right? Yuan Hao said in a deep voice. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard that. He suddenly walked up to Prince Wang Kong, grabbed him by the collar, waved his hand, and gave him 2 slaps. Don't worry, Bin Xiao won't kill you because you are still useful. However, the mistake of acting pretentious in front of Bin Xiao cannot be easily forgotten. Chapter 102. That's not necessarily true. The real loser is you. Yuan Hao's face suddenly changed and was filled with an inexplicable smile. Plop! Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this. He flipped his hand and threw the Wang Kong crown prince to the ground. He looked at him playfully and chuckled softly. Oh, how did Bin Xiao lose? Judging from the current situation, Bin Xiao has not lost at all. Great Rock King, it's time for you to come out and meet him. Yuan Hao smiled faintly. Great Rock King? Wang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank as he felt a heavy pressure descend from the sky. He immediately raised his head and saw a burly figure standing high up in the sky. Beside him was a familiar figure of a young man. It was Little Rock King Peng Nine. Greetings, Your Highness Great Rock King, the future Wang Shang of the Great Demon Dynasty. Yuan Hao smiled and bowed to the sky. Great Demon Dynasty? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and put his hands behind his back. He laughed mockingly. Golden Rock King, no wonder Bin Xiao did not see you on the battlefield. Little Rock King also did not return after chasing after the generals of the palace of the suppressing Heavenly Lord. So you are here to overthrow the Shunwu dynasty. Bin Xiao is surprised. It was hard to imagine that Yuan Hao of the Grand Chancellor's palace would submit to the Great Rock King. And the Great Rock King's palace's goal was to unify Fan State and establish the Great Demon Dynasty. I originally wanted to lure the Wang Kong Crown Prince to create a rift in the Wang family's heart and speed up the battle between you two, but I didn't expect you to make the first move. But it's fine this way. We could just sit back and reap the benefits. Yuan Hao said lightly. Yuan Hao, you dare to frame this Crown Prince. Cough, cough. Prince Wang Kong woke up with a pale face. Hearing what Yuan Hao said, he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The Great Peng King and the Little Peng King landed one after another. Following closely behind, dozens of figures with powerful auras appeared from all directions in a flash. Every one of them was wearing a long black robe. From head to toe, only their eyes could be seen. Their auras were all superior grade martial kings. Father, leave Wang Kai to me, Little Peng King said in a low voice. The Rock King frowned slightly. He glanced at Wang Kai and shook his head. No, I'm at the same level as Ford. If he interferes, I'm afraid things will change. It's better to end the battle quickly. You should capture him together. Whoosh, swoosh. In an instant, dozens of martial kings attacked Wang Kai. Streams of vigorous cyan battle chi, accompanied by the pressure of the martial king realm, swept out in all directions. Haha, if you want to capture Bin Xiao, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Wang Kai smiled coldly. His body suddenly stepped into the air. His whole body was covered in blood red and black light. 8 inner hidden gates. 8 inner gates opened simultaneously. Wang Kai's aura surged wildly. His eyes were red and his veins were bulging. He put his hands together and formed a hollow shape. Suddenly, he circulated his battle chi and shone it down. Little Peng King frowned slightly when he saw this. He had naturally seen Wang Kai's martial skill in Tong Tian Tower. However, in the end, he only opened his mouth and did not say anything to remind Wang Kai. Solar Fist. Buzz. When a dazzling light shone down, it was so dazzling that the dozens of martial kings couldn't help but close their eyes. Even a great Peng King squinted his eyes slightly. He flipped his hand and threw out a battle chi blade. Bang! Wah! Wang Kai, who was about to dive down, was suddenly hit by the battle chi blade. After forcibly stopping himself, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly became as pale as paper. Great Peng King, you're attacking a junior like me. Aren't you a little shameless? Wang Kai's eyes were cold. He raised his hand and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. With his current cultivation, even if he opened all 8 inner gates, he was still no match for the Great Peng King. The Great Peng King snorted coldly. He suddenly waved his sleeve and released a terrifying pressure. It immediately swept up into the air and directly bound Wang Kai's body. Tie him up, the Great Peng King said indifferently. Whoosh! A few martial kings hurriedly accepted the order and soared into the air. They took out pitch-black chains and bound Wang Kai's hands and feet tightly. Haha, this way, it's certain that we'll force forward out of Fan Province. When that time comes, Fan Province will be unified, Yuan Hao said with a smile. The Great Peng King nodded slightly. With his hands behind his back, he looked emotionlessly at Crown Prince Kong and said in a low voice, If you hand over the other token of Emperor Fan, I can spare your life. Prince Kong's face suddenly changed. He didn't expect the Great Peng King to also want the token of Emperor Fan. He stared coldly at Yuan Hao and scolded sternly. What is the use of the token of Emperor Fan? House Lord Baiyu's martial attainment was unfathomable. Despite being an outsider expert, no one in the Fan Province was able to move him. Yet, Yuan Hao came up with the idea that Emperor Fan's token could move Lu Baiyu. Now that the Great Peng King asked for the token of Emperor Fan, Kong felt that something was wrong. Haha, there's no harm in telling you. The token of Emperor Fan isn't just about meeting Emperor Fan. If you can get Emperor Fan's approval, you can obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance. There are a total of 6 tokens of Emperor Fan. The lords of the 3 dynasties each have 2. It's a pity that your Yuan family doesn't know that you have a mountain of treasures. Yuan Hao sneered disdainfully. Prince Kong's face changed drastically. He roared like a madman. Impossible. The previous Wang Shang of the War Martial Dynasty used the token of Emperor Fan once when he was about to die. In the end, there was no news of him. The 2 previous Wang Shang of the Tianwu Dynasty also met the same fate. If they can really obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance, why didn't they appear in the world again? 3 former martial kings had disappeared without a trace after using the Emperor Fan medallion. This made the royal Yuan family of the Divine Martial Dynasty not dare to use the Emperor Fan medallion. But who knew that there was a secret behind it? That's because they didn't have the talent to be valued by Emperor Fan. Their lifespans were nearing their end, but they still wanted to see Emperor Fan by chance. How could they obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance with such a temperament? Yuan Hao said disdainfully. Impossible. This is impossible. Prince Kong was in a frenzy. Suddenly, a sense of regret welled up in his heart. If he had known about this earlier, how could he have given Emperor Fan's token to Lu Baiyu? Swoosh! A martial king, under the indication of the Great Peng King's gaze, arrived before Kong and captured him. After carefully searching his body, he broke open his interspatial ring to investigate. Your Highness, the token of Emperor Fan is not on him, the martial king expert said respectfully. Chapter 103. Divine Martial Dynasty, Royal City, Royal Palace. Wang Kai's body was bound by pitch-black chains. He was unable to move in the slightest. He secretly tried to break free, but discovered that he could not move the chains in the slightest with his martial cultivation. It was like Lu Yao's king binding rope. He was unable to break free. The Great Peng King is truly impatient. He actually chose to bring Bin Shao back to the royal city to force Uncle Fu out of the Fan province. I wonder how the old man and the others are doing. Has the divine martial dynasty's army returned? Wang Kai frowned as he pondered in his heart. He looked at the gloomy palace. At the entrance of the palace, there were 10 high-rank martial kings guarding it. With his current cultivation, if he were to use his bloodline's power and the 8 inner hidden gates, he would only be able to fight against a rank 7 martial king. However, the 10 martial kings guarding the outer court were all rank 9 martial kings. Wang Kai was unable to think of where the golden-winged Great Peng King had gotten so many rank 9 martial kings. In the Fan province, the strongest should be rank 3 martial kings. Only Beidang Qianjun was able to become a mid-rank martial king. Furthermore, he became a mid-rank martial king with the help of Elder Lingdan. Elder Lingdan had devoured the power of the heaven-reaching tower spirit. It was not difficult for him to become a peak martial king. Furthermore, the outsider's cultivation had already surpassed that of a martial king. Right now, he was only a rank 9 martial king. But even so, the number of martial kings in the Fan province was still extremely limited. That's right. That little girl Lu Yao once said that the little Peng King is the descendant of the demon province's golden-winged Great Peng. The golden-winged Great Peng clan is one of the strongest clans in the demon province. Could it be? Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but ponder. Emperor Fan's title plate, Emperor Fan's inheritance, heaven-reaching tower, and the outsider. Wang Kai suddenly felt a layer of fog blocking his path. However, no matter how he thought about it, he was unable to think of anything. Even if Emperor Fan's cultivation was unfathomably high, why would the demon province outside of the Fan province covet it? Why did they come to the Fan province? Can you release the shackles? Wang Kai urged his mind and secretly communicated with the system. Host, this chain contains a king-tier treasure. Removing it requires 10 bragging points. When Wang Kai heard the system notification, he was stunned. The chain was made from a king-class natural treasure. However, after thinking about it, he did not pay too much attention to it. Compared to Lu Yao's king binding lasso, which contained the aura of her bloodline, the amount of bragging points required was still too little. Break it, Wang Kai said. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking the binding chains. 10 bragging points have been consumed. When the chains on him slowly loosened, Wang Kai hurriedly extended his hand and carefully grasped the chains. Without letting them make a single sound, he directly stored them in his space ring. There are 10 rank 9 martial kings guarding outside. Right now, I'm only a rank 1 martial king. If I am able to kill them, a rank 9 martial king would be able to obtain 8 levels of experience, a total of 8,000. 10 of them would be 80,000. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and calculated. Host, Wang Kai profession, martial artist realm, rank 1 martial king cultivation technique, immemorial divine king technique martial skills, 8 inner hidden gates, transposition, omniscient slice, tremor fist, 1 origin sword, origin bullet equipment, netherworld sword bloodline, rank 5 bragging points, 11 experience. 2200030000. Wang Kai quickly glanced at the experience required to break through. He secretly frowned and thought, if I want to deal with the golden-winged Great Peng King, with my bloodline power and the 8 inner hidden gates, I need to at least break through to rank 3 martial king. This meant that he needed to kill at least 5 rank 9 martial kings in order to break through to rank 3 martial king. Even though the golden-winged Great Peng King's cultivation was originally unfathomable and was not someone a martial king could defeat, he was currently in the Fan province. His cultivation was suppressed to the peak of rank 9 martial king. The only difference was the strength of his physical body. 8 inner hidden gates. Open all 8 gates. Wang Kai gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice. His entire body was suddenly covered in a blood-red and black light. His eyes were red, and his veins were bulging. His aura was rapidly rising. At the same time, he quickly took out chains to bind himself, creating a series of clanking sounds. Pada! The palace's door suddenly opened. 10 martial kings in black robes appeared in the palace. They approached Wang Kai with vigilant expressions. Humph! You are merely an inferior grade martial king. Do you think you can break free from the king grade lock made of black iron crystal? You're overestimating yourself. A martial king coldly snorted in disdain. The other 9 martial kings' eyes were also filled with disdain. They casually glanced at him. The martial king in the lead said, "Leave 2 people behind to watch him. Although his cultivation is low, he has opened his bloodline power. His aura has already reached rank 7 martial king. In order to avoid any mistakes that might anger His Majesty the Golden-Winged Great Pung King, it's best to be careful." Yes. Immediately after, 2 rank 9 martial kings accepted the order. The other 8 people left the palace and closed the palace's door, guarding outside. Only 2 people were left behind. Weren't they looking down on Ben Shao too much? Wang Kai coldly smiled in his heart. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 martial kings. His hands that were tied behind his back were slightly clenched, waiting for the best opportunity to attack. If they were to fight head-on, he would definitely not be a match for a rank 9 martial king. The difference of 1 rank was like the difference between heaven and earth. Wang Kai was not willing to take the risk. I advise you to obediently wait here. His Majesty the Golden-Winged Great Pung King will not kill you. The martial king coldly snorted in disdain. He immediately sat cross-legged on Wang Kai's left. As for the other martial king, he sat on Wang Kai's right. 1 on the left and 1 on the right. The distance between them was 20 meters. Seeing that, Wang Kai tightly furrowed his brows. His heart slightly sank. With such a distance and the way they were guarding, it was indeed difficult to kill both of them without making a sound. If they were to explode, they would definitely alert the guards outside. It seems that the Golden-Winged Great Pung King already knows about my position shifting martial skill. Every time I shift, the distance is only 10 meters, and these 2 people are 20 meters away from me. If I attack, I can only barely kill one of them. Wang Kai thought in his heart. Immediately, he felt a bit helpless. It seemed that in the future, he needed to leave some backup plans. Or else, if the enemy knew about him, he would really be at his wit's end. Ho-ho, your Golden-Winged Great Pung King naturally wouldn't dare to kill Ben Shao. Not for anything else, but because of Ben Shao's mysterious and powerful origin. Even the Golden-Winged Great Pung King of the Demon Province's Peak Clan wouldn't dare to be too rash. Wang Kai indifferently smiled and said, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point." When the 2 martial kings heard this, their eyes flashed, but they did not respond. From the beginning to the end, they believed that Wang Kai's identity was not simple. Otherwise, Uncle Fu, who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Golden-Winged Great Pung King, would not be willing to be an old housekeeper in the Marshal's mansion. Don't blame Ben Shao for being ruthless. You guys are really stupid. As human warriors, you actually became subordinates of a demonic beast. TSK. If you were willing to follow Ben Shao, you could at least become a proper human expert and a member of a super force. You wouldn't have to be like now, bowing and scraping to a demonic beast and making people laugh. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and continued to laugh. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Chapter 104. Ignorant commoner. How can you fathom the ambitions of His Majesty, the Great Rock King? The martial king expert on the left snorted disdainfully. The martial king expert on the right of Wang Kai nodded in agreement. His tone was full of anticipation. Once Ford is expelled from Fan Province, Granny 9 Dragons will also leave. When that time comes, Fan Province will no longer have a strong enemy that can stand shoulder to shoulder with His Majesty, the Great Rock King. Once Fan Province is unified and Emperor Fan's inheritance is obtained, the combined power of the province will definitely be at the top of the 7 provinces and 1 island. Shut up. Don't spout nonsense. Do you want to be executed by His Majesty, the Great Rock King? The Martial King expert on the left scolded. Haha, what are you afraid of? Ford's withdrawal from Fan Province is a foregone conclusion. Even if he knows our plan, what can he do? Once he leaves Fan Province, it won't be so easy to come back. The Martial King expert on the right laughed carelessly. Emperor Fan's inheritance, the power of 1 province, the top of the 7 provinces and 1 island. The more Wang Kai listened, the more confused he became. He had only heard of the Wu Zhou, the Fo Zhou, the Yao Zhou, and the Ming Zhou. Including the Fan Zhou, there were only 5 Zhou. Where did the remaining 2 Zhou and 1 island come from? Haha, the truly ignorant idiots are you. Even if Uncle Fu and Granny Nine Dragons have withdrawn from Fan Province, there are still 2 other experts in Fan Province who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Great Rock King. Yes, they are Ben Xiao's best friends. As long as Ben Xiao says the word, they will definitely pull out the Great Rock King's wings. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and sneered. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and bragging points by 1 point. Congratulations to the host for bragging hundreds of times and achieving this small bragging achievement. With this achievement, the bragging reward will be increased tenfold. Hearing this, Wang Kai's expression froze. He didn't pay any attention to the words of the 2 martial kings. Instead, he fell into a state of ecstasy. The reward for bragging was increased by 10 times. How awesome would that be? Bragging now only gave him 1,000 experience points. Breaking through to the next level required 30,000 experience points. This meant that he would need to brag 30 times before he could break through by 1 grade. However, if the reward for bragging was increased tenfold, wouldn't that mean that bragging would earn him 10,000 points and 10 bragging points? Wang Kai swallowed a mouthful of saliva and couldn't help smacking his lips. He couldn't believe it in his heart. He immediately cleared his throat and shook his head tentatively with a smile. AI, this young master is really so handsome that the sky is falling and the earth is cracking. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 2 Martial King. It had really increased tenfold. Hundreds of small bragging rewards will be increased by 10 times if they are successful. Then, what if there were thousands of them in the future? How awesome was that? Wang Kai suddenly felt his blood rush to his head. He felt goosebumps all over his body. He couldn't wait to fight and vent his anger. Brat, I've long heard that your bragging skills are very strong. Now that I've seen it, I really admire you. The Martial King expert on the left said, with his mouth twitching. The Martial King expert on the right also felt his eyelids twitch. They were originally discussing the big matter of the Rock King, but in the end, they suddenly bragged. This was really hard to accept. Wang Kai's expression was indifferent when he heard this. He suddenly closed all the 8 inner hidden gates. When he felt a sense of weakness, he quickly communicated with the system and said, "Quickly recover." Congratulations to the host for successfully recovering to his peak state. A total of 15 bragging points have been consumed. Burning the power of the bloodline required 5 bragging points. Burning the power of the soul required 5 bragging points. The injuries caused by the burning of the bloodline and soul required 5 bragging points. Wang Kaiwen shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly when he heard the notification. It was within his expectations. If he were to use the 1 origin sword, he would need at least 30 bragging points to recover. However, with the bragging reward increased by 10 times, a mere 10 bragging points were nothing in his eyes. Haha, you're flattering me. Ben Xiao's bragging skills are only second. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. The two Martial King experts were stunned when they heard this. They looked at each other and couldn't help but be interested. They asked almost in unison, "Then who is first?" Wang Kai looked at them with disdain. He curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Bin Xiao claims to be second in the world when it comes to bragging. Let me ask you, who would dare to claim to be first?" Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. When these words came out, the two Martial King experts' mouths twitched. They were extremely shocked. Aha, it's about time. Bin Xiao won't stay here to brag with you. It's time to beat up that great Peng King. The weather is getting cold. It's time to get some wing feathers to weave a sweater. The golden-winged Great Peng King's feathers are not bad. They have a fiery feeling. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 3 Martial King. Walala. Under the two Martial King experts' gazes of disbelief, Wang Kai slowly stood up. The king-bestowing lock that they were so proud of fell to the ground like scrap metal. I only need to brag 3 times to break through to rank 1. Who is Bin Xiao afraid of now? I don't care who they are. Wang Kai's face was full of smiles. He clenched his hands into fists and stretched his arms. As he moved his muscles and bones, a series of crackling sounds could be heard. Bastard! How dare you break the king-bestowing lock? Although His Highness Great Peng King said that he wouldn't kill you, teaching you a lesson is still a piece of cake. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two Martial Kings came back to their senses and immediately stood up, glaring angrily at Wang Kai. Without any explanation, they took a step forward and turned their palms into claws. Cyan battle, Qi gathered on their claws as they fiercely grabbed at Wang Kai. 8 inner hidden gates. Open all 8 gates. Wang Kai's pupils were covered by the color of blood. His body was surrounded by blood red and black streams of air. He stood where he was without moving. He lightly raised his hands and waved them left and right. With 2 popping sounds, the two Martial King experts' arms were smashed to pieces. A rank 3 Martial King with the 8 inner hidden gates opened was enough to fight against a rank 9 Martial King. He was even undefeatable within the rank 9 Martial King realm. Ho ho! Have you heard of an old saying? A scholar must be looked at with new eyes. Bin Xiao is different. Relatively speaking, he's a bit more awesome. In just 100 breaths, he's already at the peak of countless experts. Even if a golden immortal comes here, he will have to kneel on the ground and respectfully call me Lord Kai is immortal, Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile with his hands behind his back. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Thank you to the reader, reluctant to part with free and easy for your generous rewards. Thank you to the fellow cultivators who supported this book. Every vote of yours is important. Chapter 105. Bang! The door to the palace suddenly opened and the 8 Martial Kings rushed in. When they saw the scene in front of them, they were stunned. You're the one who injured the 2 of them? The leader of the Martial Kings frowned and coldly asked. He looked at Wang Kai with a bewildered gaze. No matter what, they could not believe that Wang Kai, a person who had just broken through to inferior rank Martial King, would only possess the strength of a rank 7 Martial King, even though he had activated his bloodline's power and ignited his bloodline and soul. The 2 people who stayed behind were both rank 9 Martial Kings. However, at this moment, Wang Kai was standing where he was without the slightest injury. Yet, the 2 rank 9 Martial Kings, who should not have been injured, were seriously injured. Their auras were extremely unstable, especially their shattered arms. They appeared extremely dazzling. Ho ho, other than Bin Xiao, is there anyone else here? Actually, there's no need for you to be so surprised. Bin Xiao already had the ability to beat up the Great Peng King. Now that he's been captured, it's only because Bin Xiao wants to see what you're planning. Wang Kai indifferently smiled. With his hands behind his back, he looked extremely carefree. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Whoosh! Once those words were spoken, the 10 martial kings were all startled. As matters stood, they no longer had any reason to not believe his words. The injuries of 2 rank 9 martial kings were right before their eyes. They had no choice but to believe him. Everyone, attack with all your strength. Remember, do not hold back. Even if you have to cripple him, do not hesitate. If he escapes, I'm afraid that we will also be executed by the great Pung King. The leader of the martial kings coldly said. Immediately, battle aura covered his body. With a movement, he took the initiative to attack Wang Kai. Universal Law, Demon Transformation Palm. Universal Law, Blood-Devouring Demonic Dragon. Universal Law, Underworld Ocean Bone Ship. Universal Law, Buddha's Fury Golden Lotus. Universal Law, the 8 martial kings attacked with all their might. Many oddly shaped Dharma idols that contained terrifying pressure instantly formed and floated above their heads. Leading the way was a huge black palm print, followed closely by a demonic dragon covered in blood-red scales, a giant white bone ship floating on the sea filled with death energy, and a giant Buddha sitting cross-legged on a golden lotus flower, glaring angrily at the group. A total of 8 rank 9 martial kings' natural Dharma idols swept toward Wang Kai. Rumble, rumble. The terrifying momentum and the attacks of the numerous celestial phenomenon bodies caused the palace to collapse with a loud rumble. Cosmic form of heaven and earth descend. Wang Kai's expression was extremely indifferent. With a tap of his feet, his body immediately turned into a streamer and flew up into the sky. Above his head, a cosmic form that looked exactly the same as his original body was suspended. Whoosh! Swish, swish! The 8 martial king experts, as well as the 2 martial kings whose arms had exploded, all flew up into the air and formed a circle around Wang Kai, completely trapping him. The huge black palm print flipped in the sky. The body of the demonic dragon, covered in blood-red scales, was several thousand meters long. As it moved, it blocked off the surrounding area. The giant Buddha, with the golden lotus, sat cross-legged with a glaring gaze. It twirled the Buddhist beads in its hand and opened its mouth to spit out golden swastikas. Following that, waves of death energy from the underworld filled the surroundings. Wang Kai looked at the universal law idols and was momentarily stunned. In his memory, he had never seen such a scene, nor had he ever heard of it. He immediately raised his head and laughed loudly. As expected of experts from outside the Fan province, Bin Xiao has truly broadened my horizons. A mere commoner from the Fan province, with your background and age, to be able to force us to use our universal law idols, you should be proud. The leading martial king stepped onto the huge black demonic palm and looked down at Wang Kai with a cold expression. Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. Suddenly, he took out the netherworld sword and held it tightly in his hand. He swung in the air and pointed it diagonally. With an arrogant expression, he laughed loudly and said, Bin Xiao's talent is the best in the world. Since you all think that the Fan province's martial cultivators are only SOSO, then today, Bin Xiao will cut off your confidence and trample on your self-esteem. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 4 Martial King. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai's expression became even more confident. He immediately waved his arm and stabbed out with his sword. One origin sword, one sword to the underworld. Whoosh! A beam of cyan sword light condensed from Battle Chi shot out, heading straight for the Martial King expert in the lead. Floating high in the sky, the original body Celestial Loxana suddenly clenched his hand, and a huge green long sword instantly appeared in his hand. Just like Wang Kai's action, he slashed at the huge black demonic palm print. You overestimate yourself. Demonic palm, demonic cover all lives. The leading Martial King snorted disdainfully. His body suddenly swooped down. Black demonic energy gathered on his two palms, and the terrifying demonic energy filled the sky. Demonic dragon break. Golden Buddha crossing disaster. Dark sea cover sky. In an instant, the martial kings attacked together. Their universal law idols and universal law idols attacked Wang Kai from all directions. Crack. Rumble. The leader of the martial kings stopped abruptly. Before he could get close to Wang Kai, his body had already been shattered by the green sword radiance. At the same time, the huge black demonic palm print was also destroyed by Wang Kai's heaven and earth dharma power. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a rank 9 martial king. You have received 5,000 experience points. Dragon subduing 10 slaps. Bang! Bang bang! Wang Kai's feet were still in the air. He did not make any attempt to dodge. Instead, he threw the netherworld sword into the air. Then, he waved his hands in the air. Cyan palm prints flew out and collided with the several martial king experts who were attacking him in the air. Bang! Rumble! Ayo, ayo! Crack! A series of noises rang out incessantly. The 9 martial king experts were immediately sent flying by the palm print while vomiting blood. Their bodies also exploded into a rain of blood and bone fragments that rained down from the sky. Wang Kai's true body Dharma idol waved its palms repeatedly, and in the blink of an eye, the Dharma idols of heaven and earth turned into colorful airflows and dissipated between heaven and earth. Pata! The netherworld sword fell from the sky. Wang Kai raised his hand and gently grasped it. He flicked his finger and smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing 9 rank 9 martial kings. You have received 45,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 5 martial king. Wang Kai gripped the netherworld sword in his hand. His white robe was spotless as he stood in the air with one hand behind his back. With an indifferent smile, he said, "A hero should never be asked where they come from. If you think that because this young master was born in fan state, you think that this young master is inferior to others, isn't that too arrogant? If Ben Shao is willing, he will be the #1 person in the Fan province. In the entire universe, Ben Shao will be the #1 person. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 6 martial king." Hearing the notification, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He cleared his throat and softly recited, "A sick tiger stands like a sleeping eagle. Once it spreads its wings, not even a blade of grass will grow. Golden-winged great rock king, have you prepared your wings?" Thank you to Detective D. Rengia and _dash for their generous tips. Thank you all for your recommendation tickets. Tomorrow, I'll speed up the update. There will be at least 3 chapters. Please look forward to it. Chapter 106. Wang Kai suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked over with a playful expression. In the distance, dozens of figures were rapidly approaching. The 2 in the lead were Uncle Fu and the Golden-Winged Rock King. Following behind them were the Little Rock King and over 29th grade Martial King experts in black robes. Quickly capture this child, even if you have to severely injure him. The Golden-Winged Rock King roared angrily. His body suddenly turned around, and with a flip of his palm, green battle chi gathered and slapped towards Uncle Fu on the other side of the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The Little Rock King and over 20 Martial King experts obeyed the order and took the opportunity to increase their speed. Their bodies were like illusions as they rushed towards Wang Kai with all their might. Bang! Pooh! Seeing this, Uncle Fu's expression turned even colder. He did not turn around to block the Golden-Winged Rock King's attack. Instead, he allowed the palm print to land on his back. The powerful battle chi caused his internal organs to churn. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, Uncle Fu did not slow down in the slightest. Instead, He sped up and overtook the little rock king and the others. He stood beside Wang Kai with a somewhat violent aura. "Young master, are you all right? I've come too late," Uncle Fu said with a pale face. Standing in front of Wang Kai, he was like an immovable city wall, appearing extremely unyielding and inviolable. Wang Kai's eyes reddened when he heard this. He felt his nose tingle. Uncle Fu was willing to take a palm strike from the golden-winged rock king to protect him. How could such deep friendship be described with words? Immediately, he bowed respectfully and said, "Uncle Fu, your grandson is fine." In his memory, Uncle Fu had come to Fan Province over 20 years ago and had been staying in the marshal's mansion as a housekeeper. Wang Kai had been raised by Uncle Fu since he was born. In Wang Kai's heart, Uncle Fu had always been like a grandfather. Together with the old man, they had carefully taken care of him. As a result, he did not think too much about his parents. Now that Uncle Fu had called him his grandson, it was reasonable. Uncle Fu was stunned when he heard this. A gratified look appeared in his aged eyes. He nodded slightly and turned to look at the Golden Rock King and the others. "Golden-winged Great Rock King, since you dare to attack my young master, I will kill all of you today, even if I have to risk my life. Leave no one alive." Uncle Fu's eyes were as cold as a knife. His battle chi was extremely powerful. In an instant, dark clouds covered the sky, and lightning struck. Waves of terrifying pressure swept over and spread out. Immediately, the Martial King experts were forced to vomit blood and be sent flying. If not for Uncle Fu's cultivation being suppressed, all the Martial Kings present would have been reduced to ashes in an instant. "Ford, now that you are seriously injured, you're no longer qualified to confront this king. If you are willing to leave Fanzhou, this king will no longer harm Wang Kai or anyone from the Marshal's mansion," the golden-winged Rock King said coldly. Even though he said this, his expression was extremely guarded. Even if Ford was seriously injured, if he went crazy, even if he could win in the end, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the golden-winged Rock King really did not want to fight with Ford. Whoosh! Just as Uncle Fu was about to attack, Wang Kai's figure flashed and appeared in front of him. With a cold expression, he narrowed his eyes and sneered, "Golden-winged Great Rock King, you think that no one in Fanzhou can fight with you except Uncle Fu, right?" Seeing this, Uncle Fu frowned slightly and stared deeply at Wang Kai. Naturally, he knew that Wang Kai's actions meant that he was going to fight with the golden-winged Great Rock King. However, when he wanted to stop him, he saw that Wang Kai's expression was firm. After hesitating for a while, he chose to stand silently behind him. That was before. Now, it seems that in Fanzhou, no one except Emperor Fan can fight with this king. Quickly capture Wang Kai. I will deal with Ford. The golden-winged Great Rock King snorted arrogantly. Whoosh, whoosh. More than 20 Martial King experts stepped into the air with pale faces. Without any hesitation, they immediately activated their battle chi, and Dharma forms of heaven and earth appeared above their heads. Once again, they attacked Wang Kai with a mighty aura. Merely 20 or so people. "Haha, Kair, leave this Martial King to me. Buzz." Suddenly, Wang Kai's words were interrupted. In the distance, several figures flashed and appeared. The leader was Elder Lingshu. Beside her was Lu Baiyu, the Tower Master of the White Jade House, Lu Yao, and Li Lingxian. Behind them, Granny Nine Dragons followed with an ashen face. Her footsteps were a little shaky, and her face looked even older than before. "Master Lingshu, you have..." Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and looked at Elder Lingshu with a playful expression. On her shoulder, there was a huge black snake, and its aura was very familiar to him. Elder Lingshu nodded and immediately appeared in front of Wang Kai. She put her hands behind her back and looked at the black snake on her shoulder. She smiled faintly and said, "Ling Dan, kill all the Martial Kings." Hiss, hiss. The large black snake's green eyes were clearly filled with displeasure and anger, but in the end, it obeyed the order and rolled away. Its body, which was originally a dozen meters long, suddenly grew to nearly 1,000 meters long. What a monster! How dare you act rashly in front of us, Martial Kings? More than 20 Martial King realm experts were enraged. First, they had been seriously injured by Ford's pressure, causing them to lose the chance to capture Wang Kai. Now there was resistance. They immediately attacked the giant black snake with their Dharma form. Insignificant martial kings who overestimate their abilities. 20 years ago, I had already sensed your existence. At that time, you were only insignificant martial ancestor-level brats. It's been 20 years since you've infiltrated the Fan province, and now, you've only just reached the martial king level. Your talents are really stupid. The black snake snorted disdainfully and immediately swung its tail down. Bang! Rumble! With a deafening explosion, the heaven and earth Dharma appearances of the martial king experts were destroyed by the tail of the black snake. Even their original bodies were slapped down from the sky. When they landed on the ground, their bodies exploded and turned into pools of blood. It was really Elderling Dan's transformation. Wang Kai could not help but grin. He looked at the black snake with a mocking expression. He touched his nose and laughed strangely. Master Ling Shu, it seems that big idiot. Ahem, Senior Cat has made Ling Dan sign a bloodline contract with you. Yes, I want to kill him on the spot, but I was soft-hearted. On account of the fact that Ling Dan and I have been in the same sect for almost 100 years, I pleaded for mercy and let Ling Dan live. He will be the guardian beast of the Shinwu Academy in the future. Elder Ling Shu said stiffly. Hearing this, Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain. He immediately communicated with Cat Lord and sneered. You want Master Ling Shu to lie to Ben Shao, but you chose the wrong person. This lie is not very good. Bastard. Bastard Ling Shu. Cat Lord immediately scolded him with a voice transmission. On Monday, I shamelessly asked for a recommendation vote. If you think this book is okay, please vote for it. Hee hee, there will be another chapter later. Thank you to my friend, Arrogant and Honorable, for your generous reward. Thank you to my friends who voted for me. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.